Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Deku had a chance at love part 1. If you guys enjoy this what if and want to see part 2, comment down below and let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content and leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story Nakitaqv from Wattpad. So let's start the video. 2 weeks ago Sunday, sitting on her bed, 𝗧𝗵𝗲 looked out her window of her room. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 was a UA student in Class 1A. She had joined Class 1A a few months later than everyone else for personal reasons. She had also gotten into UA with a recommendation. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 girl wasn't in the dorms though because it was a weekend. She had wanted to spend time with her family, but they all were busy today. The girl watched as rain poured down the glass, her 𝗧𝗵𝗲 pools looking from left to right, seeing which one of her raindrops would win the race. She smiled as the one of the left had won. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 sighed as she looked at her phone. No missed calls, no missed texts, no notifications, no nothing. Yet again, she was never the kind of girl who liked talking to people. She just didn't know how to express herself. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 had her warm, oversized hoodie on as she had cuddled her pillow. She looked up at the ceiling and sighed. How did everything end up having to go so wrong? It wasn't fair. Recently, 𝗧𝗵𝗲 had been having huge fights with her boyfriend, 𝐒𝐫𝗏. Sometimes she would even question if she was loved by him. She sighed again as she lied on her side. Was she really going to cry over him again? She hated crying over dumb things like this, but she just couldn't help it. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 loved her boyfriend, but he was such an but to her. She thought if she loved him, he would love her just as much. The 𝗧𝗵𝗲 girl thought she could change him. That wasn't the case at all. Just as 𝗧𝗵𝗲 was about to sleep, a knock on her door could be heard. Who could that be? 𝗧𝗵𝗲's heart began to beat fast. She didn't want anyone to see her like this, weeping over a 𝗎𝗪𝐾 like him. She honestly had no idea why she cared for him that much. Quickly wiping her watery eyes and sniffing a few times, 𝗧𝗵𝗲 took a deep breath before attempting to answer, whoever was there. Who is it? She asked in a quiet voice. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 has stuttered and she cringed at herself for not being able to speak clearly. A sigh of relief could be heard from the other side of her bedroom door before someone answered her question. It's you, 𝗧𝗵𝗲. Look, we need to talk. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 furrowed her eyebrows. Why the hell was he here? What did he want? 𝗧𝗵𝗲 questioned things before another knock was heard on her door. How the hell did you even get in my house, 𝐒𝐫𝗏? She asked as the door opened to reveal her but of a boyfriend. The boy scratched his head and looked at the girl's 𝗧𝗵𝗲 pools with his own purple ones. God, don't yell at me. The purple-haired boy replied as he leaned on her doorway. I remember you telling me, earlier today, that your parents wouldn't be home, and your brothers aren't home either. No one came to answer the door, so I let myself in. He told 𝗧𝗵𝗲 and I didn't tell him. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 looked at him before her eye twitched. She stood up and faced him dead-eye. Oh my God, 𝗎𝗏! She screamed out loud. She was lucky she was home alone, or else her father would scold her for yelling in the house. It felt kind of good to be the one screaming instead of him. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 picked the skin around her fingers while trying to explain to her boyfriend that this was creepy. After 𝗧𝗵𝗲 was satisfied, she stopped screaming, holding the hem of her hoodie. Whatever, what's there to talk about anyway? I think you've made it clear that you hate me. She exclaimed to the boy as she picked her skin too hard, causing herself to bleed. You'll also like the 𝗵𝗃𝗏 reader textfic by Angelic Missax, the 𝗵𝗃𝗏 reader textfic K5K. This book is old and really cringe. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 is the beach of 1A. Despite her being a hopeless crackhead, everyone loves her because she's thick. One day 𝗧𝗵𝗲 sticky notes, Izuku Midoriya by Fudikiku sticky notes, Izuku Midoriya K7K, what are you writing? Scroll. Pencil. Determined Izuku Midoriya tutors a timid 𝗧𝗏𝗏 as she writes down reasons as to why she likes him. Pencil. Many after-school meet. By Ray 165. In a world where quirks define heroism, 𝗧𝗏𝗏 faces an uphill battle not just against villains, but against her own self-doubt. Born into a family with a legacy, 𝗵𝗃 Midoriya x Female Reader by 𝗵𝗲 𝗵𝗃 𝐼9K Just a normal love story of how two strangers met then fell in love. Warning, 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 writing hand, I do not own any of the characters of My Hero Academia / Boku no Hero X. By 𝗵𝗏 𝗵𝗎 books, 9K 5K and quote, you want to save the world, while I want to watch it burn. We're on polarizing sides, set on taking the other down and quote. And quote, you're on the wrong side, me and you Izuku Midoriya by 𝗃𝗓𝗓 and you Izuku Midoriya 5K/N has always been looked at differently for who her father is. Even after her father died she was still treated terribly. When she gets to UA, all of that changes. Silence fell the room before Yuto replied. I don't hate you Y/N, he told the upset female in front of him. He tried to grab her hand. Y/N scoffed as she slapped his hand away and looked him in the eye, starting to feel her eyes water. God, she hated when she got emotional like this. Y/N was furious now. She laughed. Well, you act like you do. You always hang around other girls and you laugh with them all of the goddamn time, and with me you don't do that SHT. Oh my god Yuto, if you really didn't hate me then you would have shown me your love like I show you mine. I did everything for you, and all I get in return is the cold shoulder and you screaming at me, telling me what to wear, and making me feel like absolute. The H/C girl started to recall things that her lovely boyfriend would say to her. She's just a friend Y/N. Maybe you shouldn't wear that out. It shows your stomach and you've been getting bigger Y/N. I don't want to talk right now Y/N. I'm busy with the boys. Why do you cry every time you express your emotions? I's so annoying. You don't know how to talk right either. I's always that goddamn stutter. Just spit it out. Y/N balled her hand in a fist really tight, causing them to turn white. Ui, she stuttered as she bit into her fist. Well, guess what Yuto, I'm done. Y/N exclaimed before punching her room wall. You know what Yuto? I think we should dash. Y/N we should break up. Y/N stopped in her tracks. What had he just said to her? What the F was going on? Wasn't she supposed to be the one that was breaking up with him? She was confused as hell. She did not just yell at him about SHT and he thinks he's going to be the one to break up with her. That's not how this was going to go. What? So you're the one breaking up with me? Yuto, that's not fair, you but? You always get everything your way, so you do this just to boost your ego. The world doesn't revolve around you. F you, why? Y/N screamed at the boy as tears rolled down her face. Yuto looked down at her, his purple pools watching your E/C one's water. You always cry when expressing your emotions. Yuto stated to the teary girl in front of her. He was holding his phone in his hand while clutching her doorframe. Y/N stared at him and laughed a little. Wow, I didn't notice. Y/N replied to his last comment with a more louder laugh. Maybe I'll just not notice how you lie all the time and say you love me when you don't. The purple-haired boy looked at the H/C girl. His much taller figure was shown by a lot. Listen, I did love you, but you don't make an effort for anything. I barely see you anymore because you decided to be a show-off and get into UA. You don't even train when you're not in school. You want the truth Y/N. Well, you're getting bigger. You're lazy as F and you won't ever satisfy anyone because all you are is a cry-baby beach. He said coldly. Y/N's body froze. Was all of that true? Was that really all she was? She loved Yuto, she really did. She thought someone loved her for once. She never got all the love from her parents. I mean, her real mom did leave her family for a new man, a new life. She thought she was loved, but thought wrong. Get out, was all Y/N could say. Those purple pools looking at her one last time. Yuto turned around in the other direction and started walking towards the crying girl's front door. Yuto sighed as he stopped in his tracks. Y/N, I'm sorry. I hope you're happy. Yuto started walking again, walked out of the girl's room and then out of her house. Y/N walked to her door and leaned on it as she slid down it. 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗍 she yelled as she rubbed her puffy eyes. Was he trying to mock her? How could she be happy right now, Yudo was 𝗧𝗏𝗏's first boyfriend. Just like that, all the memories of 𝗧𝗏 and Yudo were gone. Was it her fault? Probably not, but it made her feel like it was. Maybe she just wasn't prettier enough, though 𝗧𝗏 thought she was pretty. None of that CRP mattered anymore. It was over. They had broken up, and the worst part of all is that 𝗵 had to go back to school the next day. 2 weeks ago the next day, Monday, 𝗵 had woken up the next day with her puffy eyes and tear-stained face. Today was not going to be fun, knowing that she was going to be tired because of the lack of sleep. 𝗧𝗏 got out of bed and went to the bathroom to take a shower and get herself ready and looking at least presentable. The tired girl finished her shower, put some makeup on to cover the puffiness of her eyes, and got dressed in her UA uniform. After about 20 minutes of getting ready, she was heading out of the door. Her parents were not home yet, her older brother was, so he told her goodbye. As 𝗧𝗏 was getting off her train station, she hummed a song to herself. A sweet tune that she would always sing to herself, to calm her down as a child. A song that would get her mind off of things. Obviously, she had never gotten out of the habit of singing the song when she was sad. It was quite silly in other people's minds, but she didn't mind. 𝗧𝗏 was about to turn the corner, suddenly she heard some familiar voices calling her name. 𝗧/N, wait for us. The H/C girl turned around at the sound of her name, just to be greeted by some of her classmates, Ida, Uraraka, and Azui. She smiled before responding to their greetings. "Oh hey guys," 𝗧/N said to them as she tried her best to sound happy. "Hey, let's walk to class together," Azui exclaimed. 𝗧/N looked at them and put her fingers in her pockets. They all started walking towards UA. She had smiled and started walking with them. The classmates made it inside of their class and sat down at their seats. 𝗧/N looked up at the classroom chalkboard and the instructions were up there. The girl got into her bag and pulled out her work, and started to work on finishing it. It wasn't due until 2 weeks though. 𝗧/N was always working hard to finish assignments early though. It meant she could have her own time to do whatever she wanted, and her father as well as her stepmom praised her for it. 𝗧/N was trying her best not to show that she felt like crying every second of the day. She wrote down answers on her rough draft, because the project was on English. 𝗧/N was usually good at English. She was excellent at English. In fact, she had an interest in American history, as well as other country history. Her real mother had been from Germany, so she grew up speaking 2 languages. That all changed when her mother and father got divorced and her mom found a new husband. 𝗧/N stopped speaking German, not because she felt it would have hurtful things on her. She just had no use for it anymore. After her dad finally remarried, her stepmom was from America. That's where her liking for America grew, and she started learning English. 𝗧/N was basically almost perfect in English. 𝗧/N was thinking about other things and she dozed off. When she heard a crack, she looked down at her pencil, only to find it broken. She was pressing too hard on her pencil, causing the graphite to give a dark trace. She ended up getting up to get another pencil and sharpening it. This caused this to catch the attention of some of her classmates. 𝗧/N, are you alright, Ribbit?" asked a worried Tsuyu as she walked over to the H/C girl. A confused Mina and Uraraka walked up to her as well. Mr. Aizawa was asleep at the time, so he had no idea that his students were getting up during study hall. 𝗵 looked up for a split second and quickly put her gaze on the ground, being terrified of the attention. She knew she was about to cry, and she hated it. 𝗧/N, what's wrong, are you feeling okay? Uraraka asked 𝗧/N as she tried to look at her eyes. 𝗧/N tried to talk without her voice cracking, but that failed. Fine. She managed to get out of mouth. At this point more of her classmates were staring at her and her heart was beating fast. Sorry, I don't like talking when it's super quiet. 𝗧/N managed to say without stuttering, thanking God that she didn't. Oh sorry then. 𝗧/N, we didn't mean to make you feel uncomfortable, Mina said to the socially awkward girl. No, it's okay, I'm alright. 𝗧/N told the girls and reassured them that she was okay. She obviously was not, but why would she worry her classmates? They had other tests and work to do. Okay then. The girls sat back down in their seats and a soft breath of relief fell out of 𝗬𝗏𝗏's mouth. 𝗬𝗏 looked around the room, feeling worried that someone would notice that she's feeling unhappy or tired, but nothing. Everyone was doing their work and being focused. Even Kaminari was working. She sighed out of relief again. She liked it when it was quiet, even if it was sometimes scary. 𝗬𝗏 smiled to herself and started working on her work again. Little did she know, she caught the attention of a male in her class. The school bell rang at 3 o'clock, indicating that school was over. Was happy that school was over for the day, it meaning that she could chill out in her room. She headed out the door of her class and walked towards the dorm rooms building. She walked inside, in the elevator, and to her room. The girl sat down on her bed and sighed, what am I going to do? ND person POV years ago your feet hurt after all of the running, but 6-year-old you never knew when to stop playing. You were a very happy and energetic child. You loved making new friends, and you were always so happy to try new things. Everything little thing was special to you. Even icky bugs, or slimy snails. You loved everything and wanted to ran around, looking at every, come here 𝐻𝐻𝗧, your mother called to you. She always called you 𝐻𝐻𝗧. The word meant noting to other kids, but to you it was special. It meant bunny. Sure, it sounded like a silly word, but you didn't care. It made you feel warm and fuzzy inside, you were loved. 𝗵𝗵𝗲. You yelled as you ran and jumped into her arms, she spun. You around. You're quite a runner, my 𝐻𝐻𝗧. You laughed, being the child you were. Your mother, putting you down as she returned your happiness. Okay, 𝗬𝗏 do you want me to tell you a story by the old tree? Your mother asked you, wondering if you were up for the task. A smile glistened on your face as you tugged on your mother's hand. Oh yes, mama. I want to visit the old tree. You replied as she picked you up. The old tree was a place you often visited with your mom. She had told you many stories about amazing heroes, vampires in love, scary and cool dragons, anything she could think of she would tell you. Your mom had also told you that if you ever felt alone, the spirit of the tree will keep you company. The old tree was your getaway place, your safe spot, and even though you were only 6 years old, you still knew about the trouble in the world. You knew about bad things, but you thought as long as you were here, it was a safe place. What story are you going to tell me now, mama? You asked your mother as you settled down in your place. She looks at you and smiles. Well 𝐻𝐻𝗧, I think you'll like this one. It's about a girl she's about your age too. She replied to the now calmed down 6-year-old. Really? What did she do? You asked her curiously, now interested in the story. She was a young girl, everyone doubted she could do anything. Your mother started with a whistle. She was always trying to prove to everyone that she could do something great, but nobody cared for what she had to say. Her name was 𝗵𝗃𝗃. One day there was an evil man trying to hurt other people. The evil man then tried to hurt Kia's classmate, who she also had a tiny crush on. You cried as you giggled into your hands. Your mother looked at you with a little smile. My 𝐻𝐻𝗧, you're going to find someone special that you love, and you would do anything to protect them. Your mother said as she laughed at you, sticking your tongue out. Okay, 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗏. Your little childish brain wasn't the best at understanding everything. All you knew was that boys were gross and they had cooties. Okay, back to the story 𝗬/N. So little Kia did everything she could to stop him. With her quirk she finally did. Long story short, Kia saved him and they fell in love. Her mother finished the story quickly as it was starting to get dark. You'll also like the 𝗵𝗃𝗃 reader textfic by Angelic Missax, the 𝗵𝗃𝗃 reader textfic K5K. This book is old and really cringe. 𝗬/NL/N is the beach of 1A. Despite her being a hopeless crackhead, everyone loves her because she thick. One day 𝗬/N sticky notes, Izuku Midoriya by Furikuki sticky notes, Izuku Midoriya K7K, what are you writing? Scroll. Pencil determined Izuku Midoriya tutors a timid L/NY/N as she writes down reasons as to why she likes him. Pencil many after-school meet. By Ray 165. K. In a world where quirks define heroism, 𝗬/N Mizashima faces an uphill battle not just against villains, but against her own self-doubt. Born into a family with a legacy, heavy checkmark, Midoriya x Female Reader by 𝗵𝗲 Heavy checkmark. I9K Just a normal love story of how two strangers met then fell in love. Warning, 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 writing hand. I do not own any of the characters of My Hero Academia / Boku no Hero X. Any by 𝗵𝗏 books, 9K 5K and quote. You want to save the world, while I want to watch it burn. We're on polarizing sides, set on taking the other down and quote. And quote. You're on the wrong side. Me and you Izuku Midoriya by 𝗃𝗓𝗓 and you Izuku Midoriya 5K/N has always been looked at differently for who her father is. Even after her father died, she was still treated terribly. When she gets to UA, all of that changes. That story was lame. You whined as you put your hand on your cheeks. I'm sorry, it's getting late. Your mother explained as she got up and tried to pick you up. You refused to go, causing your mom to look at you confused. Mama? You asked quietly as she looked at you. Yes. What happens when you fall out of love? You asked her, tugging on her shirt. Your mom looks at you with soft eyes and bends down to your level. She grabs your tiny shoulders and smiles. Y/N falling out of love is a sad thing. But it does happen. You just have to try and be happy again, find a better place, or find new love. Don't worry about it, sweetheart, She responds to you as you look up and give her a smile. She looks at you and then the tree. My 𝐻𝐸𝐽𝑠, I have an idea. Your mom tells you as you watch her confused. She goes over to the tree and picks up a sharp wood piece. You watch as your mom carves into the tree, making swirls, lines, and all kinds of different shapes. Once she's done, you can see she's created something. Your mom looks at you before speaking. It's a symbol. She finally says. Of what? My love for you, my 𝗲𝗄𝐻𝗍. It's going to last forever. Okay, mama. 2 years later she lied to you. You watched as your mom packed her things, yelling at your father. You couldn't do anything. All you could do is watch and listen. Mean things were said. I hate you, one said. Get the hell out. The other replied. Other things were said that no 8-year-old should hear. While all of this was happening, your oldest brother by 8 years was at his friend's house the whole week. Once you hear a slam to the door, you quickly ran out of your own room to watch your mother leave. She was getting in the car of a man. A new man that wasn't your father. You had always thought that things were rough between your mom and dad, but you never expected them to divorce. You look out the window one last time before tears started flowing down your face. Why do adults have to fight all of the time? It's like that with villains and heroes too. I guess fighting balances our world, you would tell yourself. Was that really the case though? Was that the real reason adults fought? Or was there something else to it? Were people just born good or born bad? No, that wouldn't make sense. People can turn bad. Maybe that's how your mother ended up. Obviously your mom wasn't a villain, but cheating on someone is a type of evil. Your mom used to be good, you used to look up to her, but all that's probably gone now. Your father creeped around the corner and looked at your face. Guilt swarmed over his face as he bit his nails. He grabbed his own body. It looked like he was trying to give himself a hug. Y/N. He whispered your name out loud. You looked at him wiping your tears. You saw how sad he looked. You had never seen your dad cry. Ever, but it looked like he was about to. You ran towards your father, giving him a hug. Your mother's words then filled your mind. My love for you, 𝗲𝗄𝐻𝗍. It's going to last forever. Daddy. Please don't cry. You tried to calm him down with your words. I'm not crying, sweetheart. He stated boldly as he rubbed your back. I'm sorry. I really am. You took his words in your brain. Why was he sorry? This all started when her mom was caught with another guy. They had already gotten divorced and she was just here to get her stuff. It was stupid and it hurt. She was a liar. Don't be sorry. You replied to your dad and he huffed a chuckle. What color do you feel, Y/N? Your dad asked you as you frowned. He would always ask you what color you're feeling when something goes on that could change your mood. Obviously this was from when you were younger and it was good practice. You sighed. Blue. The atmosphere is a dark, dark blue. Years later you had trouble making friends at school. It used to be so easy for you, but your 12-year-old self just didn't know how to anymore. It was hard for you to speak in front of the class as well, so you would often stay silent and only talk when needed. You were considered an uncool kid, but you couldn't care less. Writing down your name on your paper, you saw a new kid walk in your classroom. You had known you were getting a new student, but you kept your head down low and continued to tap your finger on your desk. Students, here is your new classmate. Treat him well. Your teacher said as she looked for a spot to place him. She then looked at you and smiled. Go sit next to 𝐿/N, she's over there with the H/C hair. She spoke and you looked up quickly. He then smiles and heads your way, bringing all of his things to your area. Hi. I'm 𝐒𝐩𝐢𝐫. He exclaimed as he sat down. You looked up at him, astonished by his purple hair and purple eyes. You try and bring yourself to speak, but nothing came out of your mouth. It's okay, you don't have to talk. He says finally, realizing you were uncomfortable in this situation. You then look at him and smile a bit. I'm 𝐿/N/Y/N, you finally say. Later that day you were on your way home, walking like always. You had your phone in your hand, probably on it the whole time, trying to avoid eye contact or talking with anyone. You passed familiar routes and signs until you made it home, but when you got there you noticed something. Someone's car was parked in your driveway. You were confused, of course, but you headed inside anyway. Maybe it was just one of your brother's friend. You wouldn't be surprised if that were the case. Your brother was now 20 and still lived with you and your dad. You opened the door, just to hear laughing in the kitchen. You heard your dad telling jokes, and your brother laughing. That's when you hear a female voice laughing along with them. You walk into the kitchen and look at what's happening. Your eyes met with a very pretty woman, who looked around your dad's age. Her hair was in a bun and she wore very casual clothing. You looked away from her to look at your dad and brother. Your dad looked overly excited and your brother smiled at you. �Y/N, you're finally back home, I would like you to meet someone. Your dad said to you as he walked over to the woman. The woman smiled at you and you stared at her, picking the skin on your fingers. Hi 𝐲/N, I'm Holly, it's nice to finally meet you. She said as she bent her knees to be at your height. She had an accent, and you thought it sounded really cool. You stared at her again and looked at your dad confused. Sorry, 𝐲/N, this is my girlfriend Holly. He states, to clarify. You make a no face and look back at Holly. You were glad your dad finally found someone else to make him happy. For years he had put off dating and was only concerned with work, but you guessed meeting this woman had changed his mind. You walk closer to Holly and stop picking at your fingers. Nice to meet you too, Holly. Walking into class you looked at your classroom. You then sat in your usual spot, waiting for class to start. You honestly wanted to get this day over with. You were planning to head over to your favorite coffee shop after school. It was a small shop that you used to go to every day in middle school, but now that you were attending UA, you couldn't go there often. It was quite hard, but you needed a break from everything. You had cleared your plans and were excited to be finally heading over there. Your thoughts traced back to your desk. You sat in the back row with Uraraka in front of you and you liked sitting in the back. It was calm here, no yelling either. Hey! A sweet voice called to you as you looked up in front of you. It was Uraraka giving you a smile as she waved to you. You looked up at her confused. Hey! You replied, mentally cursing at yourself that you keep stuttering. You hated that part of you and wished you could stop. It was surely bothering other people, but you didn't know what to do. Uraraka looked at you and gave you a sweet gaze. I'm sorry to bother you, but on the homework last night I just had one question. Could you help me? Uraraka asked you as you bit your lip. You looked around and then at your desk. You sighed as you looked back up. Yes, sure. You stated as you get up and walk over to the brown-haired girl in front of you. You then press your arms on her desk while examining her homework paper. I don't really understand what this question is asking. Uraraka states as her brown pools look at your E/C ones. You look at the question she pointed at and read it out loud very quietly. You stay quiet for a second before finally get what it's asking. Alright, so. You start explaining what the question means. Uraraka nods her head as you start pointing out things and even write some things down to help her. After you explain it the best you can, she smiles. Okay, so if I just do that. Uraraka says as she writes something down before lifting her pencil. Then your answer will be 3. She finally asks. You look down at what she did and start to smile. Yeah, exactly. You exclaim as you give her a thumbs up and 𝐒𝐼𝐺 smiles. You know, 𝐒/and you're really nice. I was wondering if you would like to be friends. Or well, I mean better friends. 𝐒𝐼𝐺 asked you with a comforting smile on her face. You looked at her for a minute before looking down. You smiled and looked back up. Yeah, I'd like that. You finally say, and she gave you a thumbs up. Yay. She said a bit too loud, and Izuku looked at her as she covered her mouth with a laugh. Keep it down, I'm about to start speaking, so get in your seats. The tired teacher said as you quickly went to sit down in your seat. You didn't want to be yelled at, so you quickly did as you were told. Izuku sighed as he looked around the classroom, looking at each and every person closely. That's when he started talking. All right, I'm going to assign you a partner project. I'm going to give you the rubric and you and your partner are going to figure out what to do. What I'm going to tell you is what the project is on. Izuku told your class and you looked down. You'll also like the 𝗵𝘃𝗲 reader textfic by Angelic Missax, the 𝗵𝘃𝗲 reader textfic K5K. This book is old and really cringe. Y/NL/N is the beach of 1A. Despite her being a hopeless crackhead, everyone loves her because she thick. One day Y/N sticky notes, Izuku Midoriya by Furikuki sticky notes, Izuku Midoriya K7K, what are you writing? Scroll. Pencil determined Izuku Midoriya tutors a timid L/NY/N as she writes down reasons as to why she likes him. Pencil many after school meet. By Ray 165. K. In a world where quirks define heroism, Y/N Mizashima faces an uphill battle not just against villains, but against her own self-doubt. Born into a family with a legacy, heavy checkmark, Midoriya X female reader by Camilo Slice, heavy checkmark, I9K just a normal love story of how two strangers met then fell in love. Warning, 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 writing hand. I do not own any of the characters of My Hero Academia / Boku no Hero, X. Any by B1ing B0ing books, 9K5K- and quote, you want to save the world, while I want to watch it burn. We're on polarizing sides, set on taking the other down and quote. And quote, you're on the wrong side, me and you Izuku Midoriya by 𝗓𝗓𝗓 and you Izuku Midoriya 5K Y/N has always been looked at differently for who her father is. Even after her father died, she was still treated terribly. When she gets to UA, all of that changes. You didn't necessarily like partner projects. You liked working alone. It was just your way of working better, and the news to you wasn't great. You felt a bit nervous. No, nervous wasn't the word for it, it was more than that. Maybe worried. You didn't want to be paired with Kaminari or Mineta and do all of the work, but then again you didn't want to be paired with someone like Yaoyorozu and her do all of the work. You just wanted to work alone. Hey sensei, are we allowed to choose our partners? You heard Siro ask the tired teacher. Mr. Izuku stares at him and grabs a piece of paper that was lying on his desk. He then looks back at the class. No, I will be choosing. And with that, groans around the classroom could be heard. One by one you heard names being called out, indicating that those people are partners. Yaoyorozu and Aoyama, Azui and Tenya. Names were being called and some people's reactions were good and some not so much. Groans and laughter could be heard around the room. You bit your nails just thinking about getting your name called. You mentally punched everyone in that classroom, throwing imaginary daggers at your hands. And last but not least, Midoriya and L/N you look up quickly at your name being called. You then look at Midoriya, who is already looking at you with a small smile. You smiled back at him just to be nice. I mean, he was very nice, so why not? You then look down before things get awkward. You were glad it was at least a good partner, unlike some people could be. The bell rang and you packed all of your things. Before you could stand up, your E/C pools were met with big green ones. You yelped a little out loud, trying to recover from his startle. Oh, I didn't mean to startle you, L/N. Your green-haired classmate exclaimed as he moved his arms around the air in a fast movement. You look at him trying to avoid his swinging hands. It's okay, Midoriya, I should be the one who's sorry. I know you were just trying to be nice. You replied to him and he looked at you confused. There's nothing for you to apologize for. He told you as you stood up. You then start walking towards the door, as he followed behind you. You stopped and looked back at him. Do you need something? You ask him, trying not to sound too mean. He looked at you and put his hands to his side. He looked like he obviously wanted to tell you something, but he just couldn't bring the words out. It somehow reminded you of yourself. You decided to step out of your comfort zone to try and help him. You slowly reached your hand out and put it on his shoulder, causing him to flinch a bit. What dash? It's okay, you don't have to talk to me if it makes you uncomfortable. You told him and you headed towards the door. This caught him off guard. Wait, 𝐿/N, that's not it, the green-haired boy explained as he started wailing with you towards the dorms. You looked at him while walking at the same pace as him. I just thought since we were partners, that we should discuss the project, you know. He told you as you ran your fingers through your 𝐻/C hair. Oh yeah, I might like that, but I kinda have plans today, so maybe tomorrow. You said as he looked at you. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Would you like to exchange numbers so it's easier to communicate? Midoriya asked you, his green pools looking at you. You thought about it for a moment. You looked at him and smiled. Okay, you exclaimed, covering your mouth from that sudden stutter. DMN, you hated yourself right now and you were embarrassed. You were pretty sure Midoriya noticed too, which made you want to go to sleep forever and never wake up. Alright, cool. Midoriya said as he handed you his phone so you could put your number in it. He acted like you didn't just have a big stumble on the word, okay. It made you confused yet relieved, so you handed him yours. You both exchanged numbers and you gave him his phone back. You say goodbye and head your separate ways. You opened your dorm room door and walk inside to quickly place your things down. You change into a very comfortable hoodie with black tights, trying to be in your comfort zone. You also put on a little bit of mascara to make yourself feel pretty. I mean, you weren't going anywhere to impress anyone anyway. After feeling confident, you headed out of the dorm room buildings. You then found yourself going onto the street, your phone in your hoodie pocket. It was a 15-minute walk from where you were, but it was going to be worth it. You absolutely loved the cafe's food and drinks. Walking down the street, you felt the cool breeze hit and wind at you, causing your hair to flow freely. You looked at familiar buildings and street signs. You smiled to yourself, knowing that you were close. You stuck your hands in your hoodie pocket and turned around a corner. A few buildings away, you could see the cafe's big sign. You walk towards it. You walk in, taking in the coffee scent that filled the air. All of a sudden you heard your name called. 𝐻/N, long time no see. A female worker called to you. You look at who it was and smile. Hi, Aiko. You say to her, as you recognized her warm smile. She was one of the workers here that you knew ever since you started coming here. She was also just a few years older than you. You walk over to her and look at the pastries. So, what can I get my favorite human being ever? Aiko asks you as she squishes her face in her palms while squinting her eyes. You look at her and roll your eyes. You're just saying that, but whatever, I'll get a favorite drink and I think I'm going to get a favorite pastry, you told her, and she nodded as she wrote things down on a cup. Alright, I'll have them ready in a few minutes. 𝐻/N, the worker told you as you nodded. You looked over at the small amount of people there. I mean, it wasn't a very busy cafe, but you liked it that way. Large crowds make you feel super small. You notice your spot wasn't taken and you smile to yourself. You walk over and sit down. It was in the corner of the cafe, so you felt safe. You then look around waiting before you got bored, so you pulled out your phone. Opening and closing apps to check if you had notifications. Nothing. You sighed and looked up. To your surprise, most people had left, so there was just 3 or 4 people in the cafe. You had took a closer look at the people and furrowed your eyebrows. One particular guy got your attention. It was a guy in a black hoodie with the hood over his head. He tapped his foot in a pace that was slow yet fast. It was also hard to see his face, but that's not the weirdest part. The weird part was that he kept looking at your direction every once in a while. Maybe he just doesn't want to talk to anyone. You though to yourself as you looked back at your phone. But you really felt weird. He was weird and you didn't like it. But yet again, he could be a really nice guy. And his quirk could be the cause of him being antisocial. You didn't know. Your thoughts were interrupted by Aiko coming over. Hey, 𝐻/N, here's your order. I hope you enjoy. She said to you as you thanked her. You reached in your pocket and grabbed some money to hand to her. Thanks, 𝐈𝐽 here. You reply, handing her the money. Oh, also, can I ask you a question? You ask her as you take a sip of your drink. She looks at you confused before talking again. Yeah, what's up? She asks you as you crack your knuckles. Oh well. Don't make it obvious that we're talking about him, but do you know that guy in the hoodie? You ask her in a quiet voice. She looks at you with one eyebrow raised. She thinks about it for a second, as she wasn't able to look because of your request. Oh. Yeah, he comes in every 3 weeks. And he always orders a black coffee. He's pretty bland. What? 𝐈𝐽 tells you with a small smile. You nod and look at him quickly before looking back. No reason, I was just wondering. Thank you, 𝐈𝐽, for the food as well. You exclaim to her as you smile. She looks at you and scrunches her face. No need to thank me, 𝑦/N, you're my favorite customer after all. She tells you as she pinches your cheeks. You playfully slap her hand away, letting out a laugh. The worker smiles and walks away from you, and you start to enjoy your evening. You spent most of your time looking out of the window, looking at all of the tall buildings and small shops around. People walking around on the street. It was quiet, soothing. You sigh as you look down at your now empty cup, and you had already eaten your pastry. You pull your phone back out from your pocket to check the time. Your eyes widened as you realized what time it actually was. It was 6:59 p.m. You must have dozed off because there was no way you would actually spend so much time here, even though you enjoyed everything here. You sigh as you get up and put your phone back in your hoodie pocket. Bye, 𝐈𝐽, thank you. You said to your friend at the counter, and she looked at you. She gave you a smile and then the thumbs up. No problem, 𝑦/N, come back soon. The older girl had said to you, and you smiled. As you were about to walk out, you noticed the guy from earlier was still sitting in his spot. He was being weird. That's when you opened the cafe door, still looking at him. Somehow you could now see his eyes. He then locked blue pools with you. You looked away fast and quickly headed out of the door. Walking back, you noticed you were walking in an unnormal pace. Were you scared? Maybe. But that man couldn't possibly be there to cause you harm. For all you know, he could be a nice guy. He could be there just to enjoy himself. Like 𝐈𝐽 said, he came there every 3 or 4 weeks. But something about this was unsettling to you. After you got back to the dorm building, you saw most of your classmates in the common room. Hey 𝐿/N, where were you? 𝐬𝐵 asked you as you walked closer to the couch. You look at him and put your hands in your pocket. Oh, I was just at a coffee shop. Nothing special. You say as you unconsciously tilt your head down to avoid eye contact. He looks at you and gives you a thumbs up. That must have been fun. A Kirishima joins in the conversation. You look up at the red-haired boy and smile. Yeah. You replied to them. They then went off to go do their own thing. You sighed and headed up the stairs to your own dorm room, so you could head to sleep. You were tired. You always felt like a normal kid, and everyone else did around you too. When other kids your age started to get their quirks, it wasn't a very big deal to you. You just thought of it as a meh thing. It never occurred to you that some people relied on their quirks. As for you, you didn't need to rely on your quirk. You could live just as fine without it. You got your quirk at 5.5 years old. Yes, some people might think that it was a little late for a child to get their quirk, but who made the rules anyway? At the time, your childish mind didn't care if people were tall, short, chubby, skinny, if you had dark skin or light skin, even different colored skin or hair. What you did care about, though, was if someone was nice to you. Quirk or no quirk, quirks didn't define who you were. That brings us to the question. Why did people care so much about having a better quirk or being quirkless? If you were being honest with yourself, being quirkless wouldn't really be the worst thing in the world. I mean, you were quirkless once too. When you were little, though. What can you do, 𝑦/N? What's your quirk? What can you do? Fire. I mean, there isn't much to say. My name is 𝑦/N and my quirk is called Fire Force. 5-year-old, you told the class with a smile on your face. Fire. It's quite appealing, isn't it? Fire is supposed to be hot and destructive. It's supposed to burn things and hurt things, but you don't want to do that. You never did, actually. You didn't even want to become a hero until your mother left. She made you sad, angry, and upset, and evil people and things. When you're stressed, you usually go outside and find a water source, whether that be a puddle, a pond, even some rain. That's when you take your anger out. You use your quirk and watch as the fire sizzles the water, creating steam. It's quite soothing. Other than that, you didn't take your anger out any other way. That is until people started talking about UA. Obviously, many people wanted to get into UA High. It was a very good high school with a very good hero course. Out of nowhere you wanted to go. You wanted to stop bad guys and evil people, and UA was your ticket to that route. You started training your quirk, trying to control it. You ended up getting in UA and you were quite happy. The only problem was that you still weren't comfortable with people and you would still get panic attacks or anxiety attacks in the middle of the night. The staff at UA understood this and they let you take online classes for a few months. A regular high school wouldn't do that for you, but UA was different, I guess. You were thankful. During this time, you and your now ex-boyfriend were not getting along at all, or at least you didn't like the things he did. He would always hang out with other girls and use excuses like, "We're just friends," or "Don't worry about her." You had enough of it. You guessed it was why you guys broke up. You just weren't compatible with each other. He also didn't like the fact that you went to UA. Anyway, your quirk was somewhat helpful. You could also make a string like WHP out of fire. You would sometimes use it if you were far away from a target. You could only do it if you focused your mind on the target. It was extremely hard for you though. Your mind was always thinking of the worst possible thing that could happen. While you were doing online classes, you had to go in person to get your hero's license so you could use your quirk in public. It wasn't too bad and you actually felt more comfortable with people. Overall, you were ready to attend UA in person, so you got all of your stuff ready, and when the day came to go in person, you were not as nervous as you thought you would be. The first day of UA for you was somewhat hard because so many people were greeting you, you felt overwhelmed. After a while you learned to keep to yourself and you were fine with that. That's the way you like things. That all changed the day you were assigned the partner project. Midoriya was your partner and you were doing a project on Hero Society now compared to a society without quirks. It was basically a topic that your teacher chose for you both. It was a compare and contrast project that your teacher had assigned. You liked the whole concept, but you had no idea how Midoriya felt about it. Deep down though, you felt like this project was going to be fun, especially with Midoriya as your partner. 𝐲𝗵𝗄 walked in class looking like her plain old self with her 𝐻/C hair in her normal hairstyle. That's when she looked at the board to see Mr. Aizawa's instructions. The board read, "Get with your partner and find a quiet spot to work on your project," in white. After reading, the female went to her seat to put her things down. Out of the corner of the 𝗧/C girl's eyes, she saw a green-haired boy approaching her from behind. She turned around only to meet his green pools looking at her 𝗧/C ones, with a smile on his face. He waved at her and approached closer to the girl, his partner. He then started talking. "Hey L/N, where do you want to work on our project?" Midoriya asked his partner. She looked at him before giving him a smile back. 𝗧/N picked up her binder and squeezed it tightly. She looked at him before looking up, indicating that she was thinking. She thought for a good 20 seconds before talking. Anywhere really quiet is fine, maybe the library." 𝗧/N suggested as Essie fiddled with her skirt bottom. Midoriya looked at her before giving her a thumbs up. "Sounds good." He responded to her as he quickly went to his desk to grab a red binder. As he was doing so, 𝗧/N waited for him at the classroom door. He then ran to the 𝗧/C girl and gave an awkward smile. "Let's go," he said as they headed to the library. Setting down their stuff, the two students sat down at a table near a window. The library wasn't crowded today and it was the perfect place to get started on their work. "So how should we start organizing our ideas?" the green-haired boy asked the 𝗧/C girl. She looked at him and then pulled out a blank piece of paper. 𝗧/N then started to trace her pencil on the paper, leaving soft graphite stains. "Well, I was thinking we should put a line in the middle of this paper and start comparing and contrasting," 𝗧/N stated as she stopped moving her pencil. She looked up at Midoriya to see what he thought of her idea. He looked at her with a small smile. "That's a good idea. I'll start jotting down my ideas and then you can jot down yours." he said as he held his hand out for her to hand him the pencil. "May I?" he asked, trying to get permission to write with the pencil. 𝗧/N nodded as she handing the taller male her pencil. He started to write on the paper. 𝗧/N looked over at the green-haired boy. She never noticed his features. She was always keeping to herself and trying not to make eye contact with people. Right now she had no choice though. They were partners, and whether she liked it or not, she had to make eye contact and talk to him. If not, that would be rude. 𝗧/N was silent as her partner mumbled to himself. She felt weird. Nobody was this nice to her. She wondered how such a human being could exist. He was so nice and he always had a solution for things. She felt somewhat safe and comfortable though. She liked it. She felt a bit selfish though. She wanted to always feel like this. Knocking her out of her thoughts, Midoriya scooted the paper towards her direction. 𝗧/N perked up and looked at him. "I'm done, what do you think?" Midoriya asked her as she started looking over his work. She started reading over the little notes he made and bullet points. 𝗧/N then smiled at him, trying her best to make it her best one. She wanted to make sure he was confident and let him know that she liked his ideas. You'll also like the maddest 𝗳𝗵𝗃 reader textfic by Angelic Missax, the maddest 𝗳𝗵𝗃 reader textfic K5K. This book is old and really cringe. 𝗧/NL/N is the beach of 1A. Despite her being a hopeless crackhead, everyone loves her because she thick. One day 𝗧/N sticky notes, Izuku Midoriya by Fudikiku sticky notes, Izuku Midoriya, K7K, what are you writing? Scroll. Pencil determined Izuku Midoriya tutors a timid 𝗧/N as she writes down reasons as to why she likes him. Pencil many after-school meet. By Ray 165. K. In a world where quirks define heroism, 𝗧/N Mizashima faces an uphill battle not just against villains, but against her own self-doubt. Born into a family with a legacy, heavy checkmark, Midoriya X female reader by Camilo Slice, heavy checkmark, I9K just a normal love story of how two strangers met then fell in love. Warning, 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 writing hand, I do not own any of the characters of My Hero Academia / Boku no Hero, X. Any by B1ing books, 9K5K- and quote, you want to save the world, while I want to watch it burn. We're on polarizing sides, set on taking the other down and quote. And quote, you're on the wrong side, me and you Izuku Midoriya by 𝗓𝗓𝗓 and you Izuku Midoriya 5K 𝗧/N has always been looked at differently for who her father is. Even after her father died, she was still treated terribly. When she gets to UA, all of that changes. I like how you wrote this. 𝗧/N exclaimed as she pointed to a set of bullet points. Overall, I think it's a pretty great set of ideas, Midoriya. Good job. I'll write some of my ideas down. 𝗧/N told the boy as she slid the paper closer to herself. She wanted to write ideas as good as Midoriya did. Well, 𝐿/N, I think you're pretty great, he said to her as her eyes widened. She wasn't sure if she heard the boy right. He thought she was great. There was no way. He had to be joking. It? She asked him as he let out a cough and an awkward laugh. I mean, I've seen the way you fight and use your quirk. It's pretty amazing and you get high grades. I just think you are an amazing person overall. The taller male said to the shorter female as he flailed his hands in the air fast. 𝗧/N looked down, a bright red on her cheeks. It wasn't because she was attracted to the boy or anything. It was because she had never gotten this attention from her ex, Yudo. She wasn't used to it. She didn't know how to deal with it. The next thing she noticed was tears flowing down her cheeks. 𝗧/N started to freak out because she didn't want Midoriya to see her. Why are you crying? I'm sorry. Midoriya suddenly stuttered as he went closer to the now crying girl. No. It's not your fault, Midoriya. I'm just a crybaby who can't handle anything without getting upset. 𝗧/N told him. Midoriya looked confused before grabbing her hands unconsciously. Midoriya looked down, biting his lip. He looked like he was in deep thought before he rose his head and started to speak. Listen. 𝗧/N, crying is human and if you need to then you cry, okay. It doesn't matter what the circumstance is. I mean, I'm sort of a crybaby myself. It's okay, and who told you all of that stuff? Midoriya said in a serious tone. He looked concerned for his partner. 𝗧𝗏 looked at him as her lip quivered, the tears still flowing down her face. Well, 𝐒𝐩𝐽. Well, my ex-boyfriend. He wasn't very good to me, and I realize that now. 𝗧 told Midoriya as she nodded, still holding her hands in his. I see. Do you want to talk about it? Midoriya asked 𝗧 as she sniffed, trying to hold in any more tears. What about the project? 𝗧 asked him. She didn't want her problems to interfere with their project or grade. Midoriya gave her a little smile before responding to her. Don't worry about that right now, 𝐒𝐵. What's important is that you feel okay, and we can always start the project another day. I mean, it's due in a month. Midoriya told the girl as he let go of her hands gently. 𝗧 nodded as she wiped her salty tears. She started telling her partner why she was upset. She explained how 𝐒�auto would make her feel like SHT and shame her. She also ended up talking about her family issues and how her mother left at a young age and how it affected her. She also talked about how her brother annoyed her. She wouldn't admit it, but she felt finally peaceful. Midoriya asked her what made her happy, and she started talking about her favorite things. Her favorite heroes, her favorite activites, and her favorite foods. Midoriya laughed along with 𝗧, making her feel like she was important and loved. She loved this feeling, she loved feeling happy. It felt like hours had gone by, and 𝗧 sighed. She felt like she owed Midoriya a thank you for what he did. Thank you, Midoriya. 𝗧 spoke as she smiled. A real true smile. Midoriya put his elbows on the table and returned her smile with his own bigger one. No need to thank me. I really like hanging out with you, 𝗧. I'm really glad that we are partners for this project. The green-haired boy exclaimed to the ℏ/c girl. His green pools looking into her 𝐒/c ones. 𝗧 looked at her partner with a slightly open mouth. She then closed it and then looked down. She breathed a deep breath in before talking to Midoriya. You can call me 𝗧, the girl stated as Midoriya looked at her a tiny bit shocked. Are you sure? He asked her as she laughed and smiled. Well, of course, if I wasn't sure then I wouldn't have said it. 𝗧 said as she let out a slightly louder giggle. This caused Midoriya to smile. She watched as her partner had a tint of pink on his face. She probably did too, but she didn't want to acknowledge it. Well, if that's the case, I wouldn't want to be rude. You can call me Izuku. The green-haired boy said slightly louder than he wanted to. He quickly covered his mouth, trying not to be rude to the other people in the library. 𝗧 snorted as her eyes widened. She also covered his mouth. 𝗧 let go of his mouth and checked the time. Both partners then agreed that heading back to class would be the best idea. On your way back, you both smiled at each other. For some reason, you knew you both were going to be great friends. Walking in the lunchroom, 𝗧 looked around, trying to see if her usual spot wasn't taken. She usually sat alone or near her quiet classmates so she wouldn't have to make small talk. Today was different though. The cafeteria was crowded with more people than normal, and her spot was taken by some second years. 𝗧 let out a huge breath of air, trying to decide what to do. That's when she heard a ping come from her phone. With one hand, she curiously took out her phone, trying not to spill her food. She looked at the first thing on the screen. It was a text from Izuku. Hey, look in front of you. Izuku's text read. Confused, 𝗧 looked up from her phone. A few tables away sat her green-haired friend smiling at her. He motioned her to come sit with him and his friends. Shyly, she slowly started walking towards them. Hey, 𝗧, how are you? Uraraka asked the ℏ/c girl as she sat down at an empty spot. 𝗧 set her food down and let out a little sigh. If I'm being honest, I'm quite tired. The girl spoke as she grabbed her chopsticks and started to eat her rice. Really? Did you get enough sleep last night? Uraraka spoke as she ate her bread. Everyone who was sitting near 𝗧 looked concerned. Ida, Todoroki, Uraraka, and Izuku to be exact. 𝗧 took a glance at Izuku and he looked at you, trying to find out what you will say next. Yeah, I did actually. I think it's because of all the new training I've been doing. She responded as she took some small bites of her rice. Uraraka smiled and nodded before enjoying her bread. After about 2 minutes, 𝗧𝗵𝗲 stopped eating and looked at her bowl. She hadn't been eating much and she just noticed. She looked back up and saw Todoroki staring at her blankly. Are you not hungry? Todoroki asked the female. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 froze and put her lips in an shape. This got the attention of Ida, the class rep. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 remembered all of the comments her ex made about her body. Stop eating, you're gaining weight. Don't wear that, it shows that you're bigger. Work out more. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 wasn't that hungry, but she knew she needed to eat. She didn't know why he was still making her feel bad. They were broken up with, she was supposed to feel free. But she didn't. She still felt like she was fat and wasn't good enough. Why couldn't she feel happy all the time, instead of when she was hanging out with Midoriya? It would only last a few hours. I guess not. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 told the split-haired boy. This caused him to furrow his eyebrows. Ida then stood up. 𝗧𝗵𝗲. It is my duty as class representative to make sure all of my classmates are well. Even if you're not hungry, your body still needs to eat. Ida exclaimed as he moved his arm back and forth repeatedly. 𝗧𝗵𝗲's eyes widened as she noticed how much attention he was causing towards her, and Izuku noticed it as well because he tried to get him to be more quiet. You'll also like the 𝗵𝗃𝗀𝗏 reader textfic by Angelic Missax, the 𝗵𝗃𝗀𝗏 reader textfic K5K. This book is old and really cringe. 𝗧𝗵𝗲L/N is the beach of 1A. Despite her being a hopeless crackhead, everyone loves her because she thick. One day 𝗧𝗵𝗲 sticky notes, Izuku Midoriya by Furikuki sticky notes, Izuku Midoriya K7K, what are you writing? Scroll. Pencil determined Izuku Midoriya tutors a timid L/N/Y/N as she writes down reasons as to why she likes him. Pencil many after-school meet. By Ray 165. K. In a world where quirks define heroism, 𝗧𝗵𝗲 Mizashima faces an uphill battle not just against villains, but against her own self-doubt. Born into a family with a legacy, _, Midoriya X female reader by Camilo Slice, _, I9K just a normal love story of how two strangers met then fell in love. Warning, 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 writing hand, I do not own any of the characters of My Hero Academia / Boku no Hero X. By B1ing books, 9K5K- and quote, you want to save the world, while I want to watch it burn. We're on polarizing sides, set on taking the other down and quote. And quote, you're on the wrong side, me and you Izuku Midoriya by 𝗃𝗃 and you Izuku Midoriya 5K 𝗃 has always been looked at differently for who her father is. Even after her father died, she was still treated terribly. When she gets to UA, all of that changes. She ND person POV. Your eyes widened as you noticed how much attention he was bringing to you. It's okay, I'm fine. I'll eat okay. You say to him before taking a big bite out of your pork ramen. See? Ida looked at you before he sat down again. Alright then, that's good. Ida told you while giving you a bow, probably to apologize for making a scene. You nodded as you started to eat more. You look up at Izuku and see him already looking at you with sorry eyes. He mouthed an I'm sorry, before he put his lips in an shape. You just looked down and continued to eat. While you were eating, a male's voice came up from behind you and your friends. My, what's this? A Class 1A student yelling at another. What's going on here? The guy's voice said in a laughing tone. You turn around to see who the guy was. It was a blonde-haired guy with blue eyes. Minoma, you think was his name, from Class 1B. You looked at the people around you and they looked somewhat annoyed. Finally Uraraka spoke. Can we help you, Minoma? We don't want to start a fight. Uraraka told him with an annoyed tone, but she still kept it professional. Minoma looked at her and rolled his eyes. All of Class A is filth, so I don't expect you to say you don't want to start a fight, when your blue-haired friend here was yelling about one of you not eating right. It's quite hilarious. Minoma said while looked at the brunette, He then looked at Ida, who was about to have an outrage. I was simply... Ida started to say, but then was cut off by you talking. Don't talk about my friends that way. You yelled at 𝗵𝗲 as you stood up. It looks like you want to have a fight because you're going over here and instigating things. Ida was just being a good friend and telling me to eat probably. Oh wait, that's something you wouldn't understand, because you won't ever make friends with that attitude. 𝗵𝗲 locked his eyes with yours, his blue pools staring into your E/C ones. What's this? A tiny tot person trying to speak. Well, here's a tip. Most people won't listen to you if you always stutter. Ha. 𝗵𝗲 told you. You furrowed yourself eyebrows. To be honest with yourself, you never noticed that you stuttered. At this point you just regretted everything you had said. You just wanted to die. What's wrong, tiny tot? Cat got your tongue. 𝗵𝗲, that's enough. You heard Izuku say as he also stood up. He grabbed your shoulders and held you behind him. Can't you see that nobody wants you here? It's lunch and we're just trying to eat. It felt like Izuku had gotten more confidence to talk. Maybe it's because he thought of me as a friend and doesn't like when his friends are picked on. You honestly wanted this day to be over. You wanted to sleep forever and never wake up. What are you? Her boyfriend? I think Tiny Tot should speak for herself. 𝗵𝗲 laughed again as he stared at your tiny figure. You tried to speak but nothing came out. Damn you and your anxiety. It's not like that. She's just a friend. Izuku said as he flushed a tiny bit of pink. When you heard what Izuku said, you held your breath. You were glad that Izuku thought of you as a friend, but for some reason that kind of hurt. Why though? Why did him calling you his friend hurt? You looked up at the tables around you. People were starring all right. Earlier, you didn't want to cause a scene, but now that this guy was here, he was definitely causing one. Gosh, why didn't you just eat from the beginning? I see. 𝗵𝗲 said, looking at your green-haired friend. He then shifted his gaze from him to you. You mentally jolted. He examined your face. You have really big eye bags and you're not that attractive. Don't you think you should use a little makeup? He then said. You opened your mouth in an O position from shock. You then heard 𝐒𝐼𝐺 gasp. You could not believe this guy. No. This but just said that to you. He kind of reminded you of something or someone. Yudo. If you weren't embarrassed before, then you sure were now. You looked down at the floor, trying to cover your face the best you could. Were you really that ugly that a random student that you barely knew had to tell you it? You sharply inhale before walking out of the cafeteria. You look back for a second to see some of your classmates walking angrily towards the annoying blonde who had just insulted you. Kirishima, Kaminari, Mina, and Siro to be exact. You were confused on why they were so mad. Maybe it's because he said something bad to you. But it was the truth, wasn't it? Sitting at your desk, you quickly took out a pen and paper. You went to your classroom to prepare for class, since there was only about 8 minutes of lunch left. The class you were in was present mix class. It was English, so you were quite happy. On the board there were 10 sentences that you had to translate from Japanese to English. This was your specialty. With your pen, you quickly held your paper and started translating. The ink slid very nice on the lined paper. Looking at the board again, you started working on the next sentence. One sentence after the other, you finally finished the warm-up for today. That's when the bell rang and you heard people shuffling in the hallway to get to their next classes. Right on time. You thought to yourself as you put your head down on the desk. You then heard your classmates come in one by one. You honestly didn't want to draw more attention to yourself, so you didn't talk. That's when a Kirishima came over to your desk. Your head was bent to the side so he couldn't see your face. He then bent down to your eye level and met your eyes. Hey L/N, sorry about what 𝗵𝗲 said to you, it wasn't very manly. Me, Denki, Mina, and Siro told him off though. He's sure to get in trouble. And don't listen to him. You are very pretty and manly. He said to you in a soft tone as you lift your head up. You forced a fake smile to reassure that you were fine. But yeah, I know he was kidding. I guess I just got in the moment and walked away. You said to him. You were glad you didn't stutter when you faked your feelings. It was a gift. Or something like that. He looked at you and gave you his big toothy grin. Great. I just wanted to check on you. He's in butt. The redhead said to you and you nodded, biting your lip. To your relief, he went back to his seat. You mentally huffed. You looked back at Izuku and it looked like he was just his usual self, writing in his notebook. For some reason, you were a bit sad. He was acting like his normal self. It was almost like he wasn't there to witness what 𝗵𝗏𝗧 said to you. Why did you feel that way? Of course he wouldn't care. Why would he? It's not his job to make sure you are happy always. For all you know, he probably even agrees with 𝗵𝗏𝗧. You sighed as you saw your loud teacher come in. Hey. Start finishing your warm-ups, he said. That was the last thing you heard him say before you dozed off. Unconsciously, you started to bite the skin off of your thumb. You only noticed it when you tasted the metal flavor of the red liquid. You start to sigh as you rub the red on the end of your skirt. I mean, you were planning on washing it when you got home. Yes, it was a Friday and you were going home. You wanted a break from everything. You wanted to lay down on your comfy bed or watch your favorite show. You wanted a break from the world. You check the time and breathe in and out. Only 4 more hours of school until you can get home. Getting ready for bed, you decided to check the time. It read 9:01 p.m. You took this opportunity to get comfy and grab your laptop so you could watch your favorite show. You decided to put some sweatpants on and a nice, soft, short-sleeve shirt. When you lied down on your bed, you got in a really comfortable position. You were also planning on texting Izuku to find out when their next project session was going to be. You decide to do that before you got into the show, even though you were still kind of confused of what Izuku really thought. Sometimes you wondered what was going on in that head of his. Hey Izuku. I was just wondering when our next meetup will be, for the project I mean. Sorry if I'm bothering you. Izuku, oh hey 𝑦/N you're not a bother. Also, any day is good for me. Yeah sure. How about I tell you when I figure it out? Yeah. Izuku, sounds good. Oh also about earlier with 𝗵𝗏𝗧, I'm sorry I didn't say anything. I just didn't know what to say, but it's not true at all. You're very pretty. Read 9:06 p.m. Well that explained it. Well it explained why he didn't talk to you about it. You sighed out loud, not realizing that you had a small smile creeping on your face. Me? Thank you Izuku. And yeah, I didn't think 𝗵𝗏𝗧's words meant anything. But yeah thanks again. Izuku, no problem, I'll see you on Monday. Me? Yeah, good night Izu. Izuku, good night 𝑦/N. Read 9:08 p.m. You'll also like the 𝗵𝗏𝗃 reader textfic by Angelic Missax, the 𝗵𝗏𝗃 reader textfic K5K. This book is old and really cringe. 𝑦/NL/N is the beach of 1A. Despite her being a hopeless crackhead, everyone loves her because she thick. One day 𝑦/N sticky notes, Izuku Midoriya by Furikuki sticky notes, Izuku Midoriya, K7K, what are you writing? Scroll. Pencil determined Izuku Midoriya tutors a timid L/NY/N as she writes down reasons as to why she likes him. Pencil many after-school meet. By Ray 165. K. In a world where quirks define heroism, 𝗧/N Mizashima faces an uphill battle not just against villains, but against her own self-doubt. Born into a family with a legacy, heavy checkmark, Midoriya X female reader by Camilo Slice, heavy checkmark, I9K just a normal love story of how 2 strangers met then fell in love. Warning, writing hand, I do not own any of the characters of My Hero Academia / Boku no Hero, X. By B1ing B0ing books, 9K5K and quote, you want to save the world, while I want to watch it burn. We're on polarizing sides, set on taking the other down and quote. And quote, you're on the wrong side, me and you Izuku Midoriya by Dekus drags me and you Izuku Midoriya 5K 𝑦/N has always been looked at differently for who her father is. Even after her father died she was still treated terribly. When she gets to UA, all of that changes. You smiled to yourself before you turned off your phone. You plugged it into the charger for the night and quickly went to the kitchen. You grabbed yourself an ice water in your favorite bottle and your favorite chips. You quickly ran back to your bed, plopping down on the comfortable mattress. You were finally ready to start relaxing and only think of yourself. The good thing about having a brother who is an adult is he's never home. You liked it this way. Sometimes your dad wasn't home either because him and Holly, your stepmom, were on date nights or at her house. That meant you had the whole house for yourself, and it was quiet. You could enjoy your night without interruptions. Opening your laptop, you logged into Netflix. You scrolled through it until you found insert favorite show/movie. You clicked on it and found yourself relaxing while watching. Now this was your true comfort zone. You grabbed the chips and started munching away, while focusing on the film. All of a sudden your phone buzzed. You breathe in and out very deeply before groaning. Who would be texting right now? Maybe it's 𝗧𝗏, you thought to yourself as you grabbed your phone. But what could he want? Before you opened your phone you could see that it was a text message notification. You unlocked your phone to see who it was. You froze. It was the guy who had made you feel bad for so long. The guy who had been in butt to you. The guy who made you feel worthless. Yudo. What the hell did he want? You look at the text he sent. It was just a simple hey. Hey. What the hell does he mean? What does he want? You whisper under your breath. You stared at the screen for what felt like 10 minutes before you decided to respond to him. You wanted to know what this but wanted. You were sure you blocked him, but you probably thought wrong. But at the read 9:27 p.m. me. What? I thought I blocked you. But what? No hi. That's surprising coming from you. Me? You expect me to say hi. Get real Yudo. WTF do you want? But well, I was just thinking. I miss you, love. Life is so different without you. I'm so lonely. I think we both made a mistake. I mean, don't you miss me? Read 9:32 p.m. me. Yudo. You've hurt me. Want to be with someone who hurts me but oh come on. Are you serious? You know you need me. Me? Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. But stop what, love? I'm just trying to tell you facts. Me? Are you kidding me right now? You're the one who broke up with me. I don't want to be with someone who hurts me. I'm done. But trust me babe, I don't need you. It's just so boring without you. You kept me occupied. I only broke up with you because you whined all of the DMN time. Me? Then go hang out with another girl like you always did. Anyways, you ruined my night, so I hope you're happy. I'ma block you for sure now, grinning face with big eyes. But and I swear to God, if you block me, you'll regret it. Me? Clown face, do you want to block? But yes, no, you can no longer receive calls, texts, or notifications from running your hand through your hair. You bite your lip. You hadn't realized it, but you started crying. Why did you have to keep talking to him? Deep down, you knew that you would get worked up from him. He probably knew that too. You were just so frustrated with yourself. Your night was ruined. Sitting up on your bed, you looked down. You then started to scream at the top of your lungs, tears streaming down your face as you yelled, God, you hated life right now. Without realizing, you activated your quirk, causing your hands to have small burns on them. This had never happened before. All of a sudden, you hear your brothers yelling, Y/N. Y/N. You heard his faint yelling. Suddenly your door bursts open, your brother staring at you with a worried expression. You sobbed. I can't stop it. I can't. He ran towards you and grabbed your wrists, causing you to hiss at the impact. Stop. I'll burn you. Leon. You yelled, trying to get him away from you, yelling at him. He stood his ground. I don't care Y/N, I need you to calm the F down. He spoke as you breathed deeper and heavier with sobs. Why had you gone out of control like that? It was your quirk, you were supposed to be in control of it, right? So why had you not been able to this time? You never had this problem before. If this was going to be a constant thing, you were going to be in deep, deep trouble. You couldn't afford for this to happen in a public place or at school. Y/N, just breathe. If you keep yelling and getting upset, then things will get worse. We'll talk about this later. Right now I just need you to calm down. Your brother's soft voice whispered as he held you tight in his embrace. This was weird. Your brother was never soft like this, nor was he that kind to you. Wasn't even home most of the time, but you couldn't lie. You liked his comfort. Slowly, the flames on your hands started to die down with every second you got calmer. Soon enough, only slight sniffles could be heard from you. After a while, you started to feel yourself again, your brother standing next to you, watching as you calmed down. You then looked up at him and he knew you were ready to talk. He looked at you, waiting for you to talk first. You at your hands and formed them in fists. Hurts, you managed to whisper out of your mouth. Your brother looked at you confused. What? He asked. My hands. They hurt now. You say a little louder so he could understand you. He stands up and heads for the door. I'll get the first aid kit. He spoke. Rubbing alcohol on your fresh burns, Leon cringed as he heard you hiss in pain. You saw as he looked like he wanted to ask you something, but you knew what he wanted to ask about. He wanted to know why you got like that. You didn't want to talk about it though. So, Leon, why exactly are you home? You asked him, genuinely curious about what he was going to say. He looked up at you as he grabbed the bandages and started wrapping your hands. Well, my roommates were being PP, so I decided to head home, plus I was gonna ask Dad some things, but I see that he isn't home. He gave a warm smile. Yeah, your brother finally moved out and got his own shared apartment. Yeah. Mom and Dad are on a date or something, I don't really know. You gave him a warm smile of your own. You called your stepmom Mom now. Leon finally finished wrapping you hands and you took them back in your lap. He then started looking around your room, gazing up on the little things. Your room really hasn't changed that much since we were kids. Leon laughed as you let out a small smile. You crawled on your bed again and hugged your favorite pillow/stuffed animal. Well, I don't like things to change. I never did and never will. I like to keep things the same. It's better and easier that way. You explained to him as you took a deep breath in, the smell of pineapple and oak hit your nose. It was your scented candle that you had unconsciously lit with your quirk. You had done it while you were trying to get rid of your brother. That wasn't meant for just your room. Was it? Your brother finally spoke you as he leaned on your doorframe. You looked at him and smiled. No, not really. Can you tell me why you were like that? What even happened? Leon asked you quickly after you answered. This surprised you just a tiny bit before you looked to the side and sighed. You looked back at him. I was just stressed over school, everyone is so nosy. I just lost it, I think. My friend also said something that made me mad. It wasn't something serious though. I guess I was just angry. You replied as you gave him a half smile. If there was something you're good at, it was lying. And no, you didn't lie often. You never lied about anything too bad before. Of course it wasn't a full lie, you really were stressed. It was just a tiny, white lie. Oh, you don't let people tell you things you don't like. Trust me on that and I've been through many things and I've seen many different people. You should only keep the good people in your life. And about school. I know it can be stressful, but once you have good people around you, it can be fun. Your brother replied to you as you laughed. Thank you, but when did you become a really good therapist? I'll have to pay you sometime so you can be my therapist always. You laughed a wheeze out. Suddenly Leon started laughing too. I take cash or credit, your choice. He laughed through his teeth before he sighed. I should probably call Dad to tell him I'm home. Leon exclaimed as he took out his phone. You watched as he clicked a few buttons and you bit our lip anxiously. Wait, before you call him. Can you not tell Dad about what happened? I don't want him to worry about me. It wasn't a big deal anyway, you know. You asked your brother, basically begging. He looked at you confused. His confused face then turned normal as he sighed. All right. But if that SHT happens again, I have to tell him okay. I can't risk you burning yourself again, you hear me? As if right now, you be extra careful with that quirk of yours. I didn't even know you could burn yourself with your own quirk. Leon told you in a serious tone. You got it. I'll be extra careful. I swear. You said as you raised your hands up, but instantly brought them down, due to stinging. Your brother looked at you with his eyebrows raised and you let out a nervous laugh. Starting now. You said in a soft tone and he nodded. He walked away as you heard the dialing of his phone. You heard his faint voice that was now talking to your dad. You then quickly lied down on your bed again, trying to get comfortable. Your night was practically ruined and you just wanted to go to sleep. Resting your head on your pillow, you moved your chips and laptop to your desk, so you could eat and watch your favorite show later or tomorrow. You sighed as you drifted off to sleep. Waking up in the morning, when there was school, was quite hard for you, especially when you had burned your hand. You had to hide the burns with using only band-aids, since you didn't want to draw attention to yourself. You were quietly sitting at your desk with your hands in your lap. Class had already started and you tried your best to pay attention in class, but unfortunately you kept dozing off. This also caught the attention of your tired teacher. 𝐿/N come up and do this problem on the chalkboard. Mr. Izawa told you as you quickly snapped over to the front of the class. You looked at your teacher without saying anything. You thought you could hear the snickers of your classmates, but in reality nobody cared. You heard Izawa exclaim again. You stood up and walked over to the board. When you were up there he handed you the chalk, but as he handed you it, he noticed your hands covered in the band-aids. 𝗧𝗏. You thought to yourself as you quickly pulled your hands down. He looked at you for a second before talking again. Show me how to figure this out. He told you, acting normal. Maybe he just thought you hurt your hand falling. You pulled up the chalk on the board, making faint, light lines on it. Luckily for you, you understood these types of problems. You had no trouble getting the final answer. You then showed your teacher the answer. Mr. Izawa nodded his head. That's correct, but start paying attention in my class, or you'll fall behind. I'm sorry. I will. You said as you headed back to your seat. Before you knew it, it was the end of the day. That meant you could relax for the rest of the day. Or night. You actually wanted to work on the project with Izuku, so you decided to go and find him. Looking around the dorm common room, you finally found him sitting with Uraraka and Todoroki. You walked up to them and sat down on the couch. 𝐻𝐻𝗔𝐻. You said to them with a smile. Getting smiles returned to you, you fiddled with the hem of your shirt. Hi 𝐿/N, Todoroki said to you as you gave him a small wave. What are you guys doing? You asked them, as you didn't want to intrude if they were talking about something. You didn't want to be a bother. We're just talking. Uraraka replied to you as she gave you the sweetest smile ever. That was so nice and bubbly, how could anyone hate this angel? You nodded as you bit your lip, trying to find what to do. It was pretty awkward between everyone. Was it because of you though? Did you make people feel awkward? Or were you just an awkward person? You didn't know, but you certainly did not want that impression. You decided to try and lighten the mood by talking. So, Izuku, do you want to work on the project later tonight? We need to catch up on starting the final draft. You spoke, your words coming out softer than you intended. Izuku looked at you and then to Uraraka. You'll also like the 𝗵𝗃 reader textfic by Angelic Missax, the 𝗵𝗃 reader textfic K5K. This book is old and really cringe. Y/NL/N is the beach of 1A. Despite her being a hopeless crackhead, everyone loves her because she thick. One day Y/N sticky notes, Izuku Midoriya by Furikuki sticky notes, Izuku Midoriya K7K, what are you writing? Scroll. Pencil determined Izuku Midoriya tutors a timid L/NY/N as she writes down reasons as to why she likes him. Pencil many after-school meet. By Ray 165. K. In a world where quirks define heroism, Y/N Mizashima faces an uphill battle not just against villains, but against her own self-doubt. Born into a family with a legacy, heavy checkmark, Midoriya X female reader by Camilo Slice, heavy checkmark, I9K just a normal love story of how two strangers met then fell in love. Warning, 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 writing hand, I do not own any of the characters of My Hero Academia / Boku no Hero, X. Any by B1ing B0ing books, 9K5K- and quote, you want to save the world, while I want to watch it burn. We're on polarizing sides, set on taking the other down and quote. And quote, you're on the wrong side, me and you Izuku Midoriya by 𝗃𝗃 and you Izuku Midoriya 5K Y/N has always been looked at differently for who her father is. Even after her father died she was still treated terribly. When she gets to UA, all of that changes. Sorry Y/N. I promised Uraraka that I would help her study for the quiz this week. We can work on it tomorrow though, if that works for you. I have nothing planned. Izuku explained. No big deal, but when Izuku was talking about Uraraka, His face flushed a light shade of pink. This hurt you for what reason? You shouldn't be hurt. Oh, alright. That's fine. I'm just gonna go now, huh? I'm a bit tired, see you guys tomorrow. You said as you stood up. Talk about trying not to be awkward. Bye 𝑦/n, sleep well. Bye. Your heart was bounding as you walk away from them. Passing a corner, you bump into someone. Oh, I'm sorry I didn't see you there, Amina. You apologized to the pink-colored female in your class. She just looked at you and laughed. Oh, it's okay 𝑦/n, I wasn't looking either. She exclaimed as she gives you a thumbs up. You send her a small smile before slowly walking past her. She then stopped you. Hey 𝑦/n, do you want to come with me to Denki's room? 𝗧𝗏, Kirishima, and 𝗵𝘃𝗲 are all in there and I'm the only girl. I need to have another girlfriend with me, please. She begged you with her hands clamped together. She was giving you the puppy eyes. You thought about it for a second before letting out a big sigh. Sure, I'll come with you. You say confidently. You smiled to yourself. You were secretly proud that you didn't stutter. You wouldn't confess it to anyone though. In your mind you though that if you got proud of yourself for not stuttering, then that was pretty pathetic. Opening Kaminari's dorm room door, you overheard some males in your class yelling about something. They all stopped to look at the door, confused as to why you were there. You started to feel small and shy. Hey guys, is it okay that I brought 𝑦/n? Mina asked them, hoping they would say yes. That's when Kirishima smiled. Yeah. I'm okay with it, 𝑦/n's cool. The redhead said as 𝗧𝗏 and Cammy nodded. 𝗵𝘃𝗲 then chimed in. I couldn't care less about who's here, I'm telling you extras, I don't care for HT like that. 𝗵𝘃𝗲 stated as he grabbed Kaminari by the ear. You could hear his yelps and ows. Oh Lord, what are they talking about? Mina brought you down on the floor, to sit down. 𝗧𝗏 laughed uncontrollably. Come on 𝗵𝘃𝗲, he was just joking. He said after the tears started flowing. He laughed even more as Kaminari grabbed his ear back from the ash blonde. What do you guys think 𝑦/n is? Mina whispered, yelled, even though you were right next to her. You looked confused as everyone shifted their gaze towards you. It was silent before someone started speaking. She looks as if she could be a bottom, but she kinda gives me top vibes. 𝗧𝗏 exclaimed as you looked at them confused. You then realize what they were talking about. What? You exclaim as Kirishima puts an arm around you. Don't worry 𝑦/n, they're just being weird, how about we play something? Kirishima talks to you before he starts talking to everyone else. Everyone agreed and you smiled. You all ended up playing Five Nights at Freddy's. It was pretty funny to watch as everyone got scared at the jump scares, 𝗵𝘃𝗲 included. It was now your turn to control the cameras and the lights. You scrolled through the camera to try and see if an animatronic was coming. You then noticed that Bonnie was gone. The bunny's gone. You say as you quickly got off the security cameras to close the doors. You flashed the lights, seeing nothing. You could hear your friends laughing in the background. 𝑦/n you're gonna lose power, open the doors. Kaminari explained as you shook your head no. Cammy, if I do I'll die. He's gone. You snickered. Right as you did though, your whole screen went black. You were silent, your hands just above the keyboard of the PC. What the dash, you were cut off by one of the animatronics jump scaring you. You let out the most high-pitched scream ever while you scooted towards the boys and Mina. That's when you all started laughing. You could see that Kirishima and Mina both looked slightly scared through their laughter. Well, that was interesting. You finally spoke. You smiled as you looked at your new friends, having a good time. You could tell that you were going to be just fine. Hey 𝑦/n. You look over to see your green-haired partner looking at you with his green eyes. Hey Izuku. You respond to him. It was after school on a fur day and you had just changed out of your uniform. You were wearing tights with your favorite hoodie. You felt really comfortable like this. Do you need something? You ask him as he puts his hand on the back of his neck. Yeah, do you want to work on the project? I get it if you're busy. He asked you. Your E/C pools started his green ones and smiled. Yeah, sure. Do you want to go over to my house? You smiled as he looked at you shyly. Yeah, sure. He stuttered, causing you to chuckle. He then went to his dorm to grab his books and notes while you waited for him at the front of the dorm's building. Once he got down, the both of you started walking towards your house. The two of you were silent. The only thing that could be heard were your feet shuffling on the ground, the loud noises made by rocks. It was quite an awkward atmosphere, so you decided to start a conversation. So, how did studying with 𝐒𝐼𝐺? You asked the green-haired boy as he looked at you and smiled. Yeah, it was good. Ochako and I got a lot of studying done. I'm pretty sure we got the unit covered, I think dash. And with that the boy started rambling. You put on a smile even though something in you didn't sync right. Did he say, Ochako? They're on a first-name basis. You thought to yourself as you bit your finger. Normally this wouldn't affect you that much, but this time it was different. Sure, they have been really good friends for a while, but they never used first names. She still calls him Deku. So why did this hurt so much? Maybe it was because you were being selfish. You wanted that to be your thing with Izuku, and yes, you wouldn't admit that out loud. It was rude, but you couldn't help feeling that way. Y/N. You heard Izuku say your name, causing you to snap out of your thoughts. Yes. You stutter as you were surprised by his voice. I was rambling on, sorry for making you bored. He awkwardly laughed as he put his hand behind his neck, scratching it. No, it's okay. I was being rude by not listening. You tell him as you gave him a small smile. He was about to protest, but you then grabbed his free arm and start dragging him forward. Come on, let's go, Izuku. My house isn't that far from here. Come on. You say as you speed walk on the familiar roads. You then look back to see the boy had a tint of pink spread across his pale face. This caused you to smile as you kept walking towards. You both sat down at your kitchen table, setting down your things. Your brother wasn't home and you were home alone yet again. Well, not really alone, but that's besides the point. You'll also like the 𝗵𝗃𝗀𝗏 reader textfic by Angelic Missax, the 𝗵𝗃𝗀𝗏 reader textfic K5K. This book is old and really cringe. Y/NL/N is the beach of 1A. Despite her being a hopeless crackhead, everyone loves her because she thick. One day Y/N sticky notes, Izuku Midoriya by Furikuki sticky notes, Izuku Midoriya K7K, what are you writing? Scroll. Pencil determined Izuku Midoriya tutors a timid L/NY/N as she writes down reasons as to why she likes him. Pencil many after-school meet. By Ray 165. K. In a world where quirks define heroism, Y/N Mizashima faces an uphill battle not just against villains, but against her own self-doubt. Born into a family with a legacy, heavy checkmark, Midoriya X female reader by Camilo Slice, heavy checkmark, I9K just a normal love story of how two strangers met then fell in love. Warning, 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 writing hand, I do not own any of the characters of My Hero Academia / Boku no Hero, X. Any by B1ing B0ing books, 9K5K- and quote, you want to save the world, while I want to watch it burn. We're on polarizing sides, set on taking the other down and quote. And quote, you're on the wrong side, me and you Izuku Midoriya by 𝗓𝗏𝗏 and you Izuku Midoriya 5K Y/N has always been looked at differently for who her father is. Even after her father died, she was still treated terribly. When she gets to UA, all of that changes. You and Izuku both got your papers out and started working on the project. I'm sorry for all of the time skips. See, you yawned as you stretched your arms. You checked the time. It read 9:48 p.m. You sighed as you looked up at Izuku. It had also looked like he was tired of working. You decided that it would be best to stop for today. Hey Izuku, let's stop for today. You exclaimed as you started cleaning up. Oh yeah dash. Izuku was cut off by a loud rumble and light flashing. The power suddenly cut out. Startled, you screamed out and grabbed the nearest thing to you. In your case, that was Izuku. You stood there for a few seconds before you felt Izuku start to move towards the window. He peeked outside as you followed behind him. It looks like a storm, it's raining quite a lot. He spoke quietly as you nodded. He then looked at you. Do you have any candles? It looks like we're not going to have power for a while. You looked at him before nodding slowly. Yeah, I think so, but can you come with me? I'm a bit scared. You spoke the last part quietly, but Izuku heard and he understood. Of course, just lead the way, he said. You couldn't really see in the dark, but you could see he had a small smile on his face. You started walking towards your room. You kept your candles in there. Izuku followed you like a lost puppy and you grabbed a few. Once you had them, you walked out of your room. You then went to the living room and put down the candles. You lit your finger with fire and lit each one of them. Izuku watched in awe as you did so. You then turned to face him. You sigh as you look at the green-haired boy in front of you. You could see his features so much better now that there was light. Do you want hot chocolate? I was gonna make me some. You asked the boy in front of you and he nodded. That would be great, thank you. He replied as you smiled. You headed back into the kitchen as he followed behind you. You grabbed the hot cocoa mix and poured it into 2 cups. You then started boiling water in a kettle. You look over at Izuku. He was sitting on a chair, while watching you closely. You decided to bring the mood up. Do I have something on my face? You're staring at me. You ask him while letting out a little giggle. He looked at you with widened eyes. Yeah. No you don't. I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was starring. He told you, with his pink face glistening in the candlelight. You let out another giggle, causing him to relax a tiny bit. You gave him a warm smile as you poured the boiling water in the cups. He returned your smile. You gave him his hot chocolate and picked yours up to blow on it. It looks like it's going to be raining for a while. Izuku exclaims as he takes a sip out of his hot chocolate. He looked like he was listening to the sound of the heavy rain hitting the windows. Yeah, I bet it will. You replied as you bit your lip. Hey Izuku. You called out to him, gaining his attention. Why don't you stay the night? I mean, you don't have to if you don't want to. But I feel like it would be well, I don't know if that's the word. But yeah. You told him as you picked the skin off of your finers. Izuku looked at you as he parted his mouth. Are you sure? I don't want to be a burden. He spoke as you quickly responded. No. You are never a burden, Izuku. I actually like having you around. You admitted. Izuku looked at you with a smile. All right then, if it's okay with you. He responded with a slight tint of pink coating his face. Great. You can wear some of my oversized clothing, if that's okay with you. You asked him. He looked at you for a second as if he was frozen. Why yeah, sure that's fine. He said, trying to sound confident. This caused you to let out a little giggle, which startled you a bit as well. You decided to forget it ever happened. You checked the time and it read 10:11 p.m. Okay then, let's get ready for bed, yeah? You told the green-haired boy next to you. You both finished your drinks and headed towards your room. You and Izuku decided that you would both sleep in the living room. You quickly made both of your sleeping places comfortable with pillows and blankets. Izuku was wearing your biggest and baggiest clothing and it was still just a tad bit tight on him. It looked like he didn't mind though. You sighed. You were extremely tired from all of the studying today and working. Are you alright, 𝗧𝗵𝗲? Izuku asks you as you breath in deeply. You look over at the droopy-eyed boy next to you. It also seemed like he was tired. While you both did work hard today on the project. You were actually proud of the two of you. Yeah, I'm fine, Izuku. I'm just a bit tired, that's all. You exclaimed as he looked at you. He then proceeded to nod. Well, you're not the only one. Izuku finally spoke as he slightly laughed out loud. You gave him a little smile before talking again. Let's get some rest then, yeah? You spoke as you started heading towards your flat blanket mattress. The shuffling of your bodies as well as some blankets could be heard. Before you knew it, you were both comfortable, covered in blankets. You both were about to be knocked out. Well, good night, 𝗧𝗵𝗲. Izuku spoke to you as he let out a yawn. It took you a while to process what he said, but when you did, you smiled. Good night, Izuku. Opening your eyes, you turned your body to face the wall. You had woken up in your living room, confused. Why had you spelt in the living room again? Maybe you were so tired that you fell asleep there. It's not like you haven't done that before, so why would this time be any different? You grunted as you gave your arms a good stretch, and when you did you felt yourself slapping someone's face. They let out a sleepy and quiet grunt. You froze in your place, slightly opening your mouth. You look to your side to see a curly-haired boy lying right next to you. Izuku to be exact. His mouth was slightly parted open, with his hair ruffled up. "Oh," you whisper out loud to yourself. You had forgotten he spent the night. You quickly grabbed your phone to check the time and it read 9:02 a.m. You quickly glance over at your green-haired friend. He lied still, peacefully resting, even after getting smacked right in the face. You silently laugh to yourself as you get up, trying not to wake the sleepy boy up. You decided to make Izuku and yourself some breakfast because that's what a good friend should do, right? Walking to the kitchen, you wondered what you would make for the two of you. You thought for a moment, nothing really coming to your mind. It was strange since you always had an idea of what to eat. You walk to your kitchen, going into your pantry. You scan around for what does Izuku like. Right then and there you realize something. You don't know what much about Izuku and he doesn't really know much about you. It was weird. You felt like you've been friends with the green-haired boy for such a long time, even though it's really only been a few weeks. You wanted to get to know him. You wanted to find out more about him. But you didn't know why. Right as you were grabbing a few things, Izuku walks in the kitchen sleepily. You look over at him and give him a small smile. "I was really hoping you would stay asleep for a while. I wanted to surprise you with breakfast." You spoke in a quiet tone. This caused Izuku to look at you for a few seconds before blinking. He returned your smile with one of his own. "That sounds really good, but you really didn't have to. I could have gotten something to eat later. But thanks 𝑦/N, Izuku said, sitting down at your table. "Izuku, listen, you're a really good friend to me. Of course I'll do something as easy as making breakfast for you. Does pancakes sound good?" You asked him. "Yeah, of course." Izuku replied to you. "Great." You hummed. You grabbed some flour, sugar, eggs, butter, and milk for your pantry and fridge. You then grabbed a bowl and a spoon. You started making the pancakes step by step, carefully putting the ingredients in the bowl while you quietly hummed to yourself. The next thing you know, 3 minutes go by, then 5, then 10, and so on. The project was due in 3 weeks. You and Izuku really have to add the final touches to it, but there was also something else that you wanted to get finished first. And that was the DMN pancakes. Walking into the training room to work out, you set your things down on the ground. This was basically your comfort room, knowing that you could test your limits. The room consisted of memory foam floors and walls with a bunch of workout equipment, and it even had some mirrors. Basically, any quirk would be okay to test and strengthen in here. Looking around the room, you silently smiled to yourself. You had brought a bag with you, consisting of your stuff, so you put that down before you started doing anything. You stretch your arms before you grab a hair tie from your wrist and tied your hair in a way so it wouldn't be in the way. Looking in one of the mirrors, you fixed up any bumps in your hair before you cleared your throat. You then started heading towards one of the weights. These past couple of days have been quite strange for you. You had Izuku at your house and he even slept over. To be honest with yourself, it was one of the happiest you've ever been. You had felt like you really were happy. It had been a couple days since then and nothing has changed between you and Izuku. It was like nothing ever happened, but you would be lying if you said you wanted it that way. Despite all of that, you have a goal. That goal was to get stronger, and you should probably let it stay that way. Getting caught in all of that mess was not what you wanted, and you especially didn't want to end up liking anyone again. It would only get you distracted. You wanted to become a hero after all, and you were going to a very nice hero school. You had to be there for a reason, and that reason is to become a hero. You looked around in your bag for your phone, and when you found it, you put on a soft smile. You then grabbed your wireless earbuds and connected it to the Bluetooth. You were in the mood to listen to music while you trained. Quickly opening an app and scrolling through your music, you pressed shuffle play. The music started playing as you put both earbuds in. Looking over to your side, you grabbed a pair of weights off of a rack that appeared to be 70 pounds. You knew you should start off easy, since you didn't want to pull a muscle or something stupid like that. You made a quiet humph noise when you lifted the weights from the ground, causing your body to quickly flex. You then started to move your arms in a up and down position, humming along with one of the songs playing, occasionally saying the lyrics to the songs. After a couple minutes pass, you wanted to challenge yourself more, so you dropped the weights you were currently working with. Scanning through the numbers at the top of the weights, you decided to go with 100 pounds. To be honest with yourself, This wasn't a big deal to you. You just were out of practice and needed to regain it back again. Picking up the weights, you grunt out loud, moving your hands in an up and down motion again, your body starting to flex again. You tried your best not to strain yourself. Izuku's POV. Some extra training would be great for me, I thought to myself as I walked in the weight training room. I quickly set my stuff down. I then heard some tired grunts from across the room, so I looked over. My eyes widened for a second before they went back to normal. It was 𝗧𝗵𝗲. She was listening to music while lifting up some weights. Watching her was so pleasant. I have no idea how to explain it, but it almost puts me at ease when I watch her. It's almost like I want to watch her work out every day. My face suddenly reddened at that thought. Shut up, idiot. You can't think such things of people. Especially girls. I started walking towards 𝗧𝗵𝗲 with a small smile on her face. As I got closer, I could practically feel my heart pounding. 𝗧𝗵𝗲's soft humming could be heard more clearly with every step I take. I breathed in. Why was I so nervous? When I got to her, I tapped on her shoulder, causing her to yelp and jump. She accidentally let go of the weight, and the metal hit the ground with a loud thud. My eyes widened. She turned to look at me with a scared expression. Oh, see, I didn't mean to scare you. I just meant to get your attention. Are you okay? I'm so sorry. I tried to apologize as her expression turned into a relieved one. Izuku, it's okay. I wasn't exactly it, that's all. Really, Fine, she replied to me as I put my hand behind my head, giving it a scratch. Well, if you say so. I told her back. So, why were you here? To train? Or just to scare people? She teased as my face reddened for the second time in the time span of 10 minutes. I started to flail my arms around and laughed painfully. Well, I was gonna train. You just happened to be here at the same time, and when I saw you I thought I should go say hi. Nothing else, and again I didn't mean to scare you. 𝗧𝗵𝗲. By the way, you look really pretty when you train. Oh, you look pretty cool. I'm sorry. I stuttered all at once. Great, now you've embarrassed yourself. She looked at me before giving me a giggle. I looked up at her, my lips slightly parted. You talk a lot, Izuku. She laughed again. I know. I replied, fiddling with my fingers. It's not a bad thing, it's just, it's what defines you, and I think it's pretty cool. She smiled at me, her 𝐸/C pools staring into my green ones. My cheeks rose into a slightly more pink shade than normal. Thank you. I smiled back at her. And she nodded. Now do you want to train with me? I'm still up for a challenge, she said as she put one of her hands into a fist in the air. I grinned. She spoke to me with the loveliest voice. Yes, I shouted, looking over at her as she crouched down to reach her bag, putting her earbuds away. All right, let's get to it then, she questioned as she stood back up from crouching down. I nodded. Yeah, let's do it. I think I might be falling for this girl. It had felt like forever since you had seen Izuku, but in reality it had only been about 2 days. You were at home, in your living room, watching a movie, and still in your school uniform. You had only just got back from school about an hour and a half ago. You sighed as you stretched your arms, not wanting to move very much since you were very comfortable with where you were laying down. A yawn slipping your mouth as you cover it with your hand. Being bored of the movie, you grabbed your phone and sent a cute heart meme to Mina. That's when the door opened with a loud creak. You quickly glance over at the door and saw your older brother walk in with some groceries. He looks over your way and greets you with a yo. He then trudges over to the kitchen to put the groceries away. Suddenly getting a boost of energy, you walk over to help him put the things away. So you're finally doing this around the house. You tease him as he groans at your presence. He tries to swat you away, saying that your annoying presence is getting in the way of his job. You laugh as you continue to bug him while helping out at the same time. By the way, where are Mom and Dad? You asked him curiously as he gave you a small smile. They're at work and they're going to a dinner party with coworkers right after they get off, so it's just gonna be us two for a while. Oh, okay. You nod your head as you put the last of the groceries away in the fridge. You grabbed your phone after you were finished, replying to Mina, who sent a heart meme back. You smiled as you set your phone down. Oh yeah, we're going out in a few hours. he says as you furrow your eyebrows. Out. You question. Out where? You wondered if he would tell you since he could be very secretive sometimes. You watched him as he put his hand on the back of his neck, slowly rubbing it. Now you knew that he didn't really want to tell you where you two were supposed to go. You bit the inside of your lip as you watch him. Why can't you just tell me? I have a feeling that we're not going somewhere fun because of the way you're acting. You finally spoke as he let a breath of air that he didn't know he was holding. Okay, fine. I booked a doctor's appointment for you because I'm worried about you. He bit his lip unconsciously before he started talking again. And I didn't want you to get taken out of UA. Your eyes widened. What? Take you out of UA? Why would he even say that? He knows how much you like it there. That doesn't make sense. Why would they take me out of UA? You yelled a bit louder than you intended to. 𝐵/N sighed as he knew you were furious. Because I heard that could happen. You could get taken out of the hero course. He looked at your face for a reaction, but all you could do was look at him. You didn't know what to say. They shouldn't take you out of UA for something you can control. He added and you nodded. What are the doctors going to do for me? You finally asked with a soft voice. He put one hand on your shoulder. To tell you the truth, I don't know 𝑦/N. We can just hope they know what to do. I honestly don't think that this is a rare occurrence. People lose control of their quirk all of the time, don't you see it on the news? The way he talked to you was very comforting. That's most likely why you were going to agree to go to the doctor's office in the first place. You'll also like the 𝗵𝘃𝗲 reader textfic by 𝐸𝐿IC Missax, the 𝗵𝘃𝗲 reader textfic K5K. This book is old and really cringe. 𝑦/NL/N is the beach of 1A. Despite her being a hopeless crackhead, everyone loves her because she thick. One day 𝑦/N sticky notes, Izuku Midoriya by Furukuki sticky notes, Izuku Midoriya K7K, what are you writing? Scroll. Pencil determined Izuku Midoriya tutors a timid L/NY/N as she writes down reasons as to why she likes him. Pencil many after-school meet. By Ray 165. K. In a world where quirks define heroism, 𝗧/N Mizashima faces an uphill battle not just against villains, but against her own self-doubt. Born into a family with a legacy, 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝗲 Midoriya x female reader by Camilo Slice, 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝗲 I9K just a normal love story of how two strangers met then fell in love. Warning, 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 writing hand, I do not own any of the characters of My Hero Academia / Boku no Hero X. Any by B1ing books, 9K5K- and quote, you want to save the world, while I want to watch it burn. We're on polarizing sides, set on taking the other down and quote. And quote, you're on the wrong side, me and you Izuku Midoriya by 𝗃𝗓𝗓 and you Izuku Midoriya 5K 𝗏/N has always been looked at differently for who her father is. Even after her father died, she was still treated terribly. When she gets to UA, all of that changes. You ready? You heard Leon ask you as you nodded. You had changed into a comfortable hoodie and sweatpants. Since you were going to the doctor's office, you wanted to be as comfortable as possible. You grabbed your phone off the counter and headed towards the door, outside and into your brother's car. You got in Leon's car. As you buckled up, you looked over at him. You could never truly tell what he was thinking. You had to take guesses on what was going on in that mind of his. Sometimes he had that stern look on his face, other times it looked like he was trying his hardest to put on a fake smile. In all honesty, it was probably him that was hurt the most when our mother left us. He was of course older, and knew why she had left at that time. They were pretty close too. Pulling you out of your thoughts, you felt the car take a big left turn as you pull into the hospital. You guys parked near the first part of the big building, which was for non-emergencies and mostly checkups. Getting out of the car, you quickly grasped onto your phone. You didn't know why you were so nervous. You had yearly checkups anyway. Why was this any different? Walking in was no big deal. Talking the elevator up to the 4th floor was a little nerve-wracking. Sitting in the waiting room, you were starting to overthink. What if they make you stop going to UA? What if they somehow find a way to take away your quirk? What if they never let you use your quirk again? So many thoughts filled your head as you uncomfortably sat in the waiting room chair. L/NY/N. A small voice called out your name. You looked up to see a nurse softly smiling at you. The doctor is ready to see you. You looked at your brother to see if he was gonna go with you, but he just motioned you to go on your own. You nodded as you got up and followed the nurse into a room where a doctor greeted you. The doctor was a woman who looked to be in her early 30s. She had her brunette hair in a bun and she looked very professional. She wore square-like glasses that fit her look very well, and she had her nails painted all types of neon colors. You thought that was strange compared to everything else, but it comforted you in a way. Hello L/N, I'm Dr. 𝐬𝐽. Do you mind if I ask you some questions before we start? She told you to sit on the chair and you did so. She started asking you basic questions like, what are you allergic to? And, have you had surgery in the past year? You felt okay with answering stuff like this. Okay, that's all the questions on my list. So now can you tell me why you're here? She asked in her sweet voice. You nodded. You looked up at her as you fidgeted with your fingers. She looked at you, patiently with a comforting smile. You suddenly felt relieved. You took a deep breath before talking again. My quirk. You stuttered. You cleared your throat before talking again. My quirk has been causing me problems. Dr. 𝐬𝐽 nodded as she wrote down some things. What about your quirk has been causing you problems? She asked. Well, I mean, sometimes it goes out of control. I've burned myself on accident a few times. You told her and watched as she glided the pencil across the paper. Does your quirk go out of control when you're upset? Or when you're happy? Tell me more. She smiled. You looked up at the ceiling and tried to think. Every time your quirk went out of control, it was because you were emotional, right? Yeah, it's when I'm sad or upset. Even mad. You added. All right then, that's very interesting. She spoke. Have you ever thought that your quirk reacts like that because that's just how your quirk works? It's just a theory though. She smiled at me. You bit your lip as you furrowed your eyebrows. Maybe that could be the case, but then why hasn't it happened before when you were little? You were sure there were times where you got frustrated and your quirk for sure didn't go out of control. Dr. 𝐬𝐽 watched me as I thought. She sighed as she took out a piece of paper. She wrote something down really fast before handing you it. Here's what I'm going to prescribe to you. This ointment will help your burns if you manage to burn yourself again. She pointed to one of the 2 words on the paper. And these are pills that you take once every week. They will reduce the effects of your quirk. Of course, you don't have to take them if you think you have control. It's just something to help you when you may lose control, all right? She pointed to the other word. You nodded as you bit your lip. All right, I think that concludes everything. Come back if you need anything else L/N. It was good to see you. She waved you goodbye as you got up. You went to the waiting room to see Leon on his phone. He looked up as he saw you walk into the room, and he got up to follow you outside the building into the car. Once you got into the car, you instantly brought your phone out. You had the sudden urge to text Izuku, so that's exactly what you did. You, hey Izuku, hello Y/N. You, WID. Izuku, nothing really, I'm at the dorms right now. We're about to eat you. Oh, what are you guys having? Izuku, we're having katsudon. What? You guys got lucky. Who the chef tonight? Anguished face Izuku, ha ha ha, it's Kaken. You? Oh, if or wouldn't he like poison the food? Skull Izuku, I mean I hope not. You? Face Joju, I wish I was there Angel Izuku, well can you not be here? Why aren't you? You? Oh well I just got back from the doctor Izuku. Are you okay? What happened? You? I'm fine. It was just a checkup Izuku. Oh god, you scared me. I thought something bad happened. You? Nah, nothing's wrong Izuku. Well that's good, oh I gotta go, we're gonna eat now. I'll see you tomorrow. You? Yeah, I'll see you. Bye Izuku, bye. Read at 7:30 p.m. You instinctively smiled before you turned off your phone and placed your head on the window. You hoped that everything would turn out okay in the end. You basically prayed for that to happen. Walking in the big door for your homeroom class, your eyes scanned the room looking for him. Izuku. You then spotted him talking with Todoroki with a big smile on his face. It looked like he was talking about something that he enjoyed since he always ended up doing that. Him happy always put a smile on your face. When you saw her walk up to him, your smile began to slowly fade into a neutral face. Uraraka. Why was it that if she accidentally brushed against him, it would cause this weird gut feeling in the pit of your stomach? Izuku was your friend and he was allowed to have other friends. They were also on a first-name basis, but that made you feel queasy. You're just being selfish. You would tell yourself. It's not right for you to feel this way. You're not supposed to be jealous of your other friends. Snap out of it. Izuku must have noticed you starring because he locked eyes with you and waved. Your smile slowly crept back up as you let out a breathy laugh and waved back. You turned back to your seat and sat down, setting your stuff underneath your desk. That's when you heard footsteps coming from behind you. You looked over your shoulder to see green hair above you. "Oh hey Izuku," you said as you turned your body to face him. He looked at you and smiled with his eyebrows raised. "Hey 𝑦/N, can I ask you something?" He asked you and you laughed. "Well, I mean you just did, but yeah, you can ask me something." He put his hand behind his neck and rubbed it slowly. "Right, huh? Well, I was wondering if you wanted to work on our project again in the library. I was thinking about a bunch of this last night and I think I have some ideas for it." He spoke. You looked at him and thought for a moment. You didn't have anything after class, so it was probably okay. "Yeah, sure, I'm free. And I think I could give some of my ideas as well. I have a really good concept of how we should rearrange it." You stretched your arms as you finished your sentence. He nodded as he gave you a thumbs up. Mr. Aizawa then walked in with a tired aroma around him. "All right, sit in your seats everyone," he said with a groggy voice. Izuku looked at him and then looked at you. "So right after class is good, right?" he said, getting ready to head to his seat. You nodded at him with "you bit your inner cheek." "Great," was all he said as he headed over to his desk and took a seat. Aizawa then started his class. Ding! The last bell had rung for the day. That meant the day was over. You were beat. If listening to Bakugo yell was bad, then listening to Present Mike yell back at him was even worse. You swore you could still hear the ringing in your ears. You felt bad for your classmate Jairu, who has very good hearing. Grabbing your stuff, you started heading towards the dorms. That's when you remembered your little meet-up with Izuku for the project. You started heading towards the library in the other direction. You didn't remember seeing Izuku walk this way, so maybe you were early. Or maybe you were late. You took out your phone and checked the time. No, you weren't late, you were fine. Walking in the library as fast as you could, you scanned the room. To your surprise, there he was. His messy green hair easily stood out against the natural hair-colored students. You smiled as you slowly walked over towards him. He appeared to be scrolling through something on his phone. You quietly set your things down, and that's when he took his eyes off his phone and onto you. You'll also like the maddest 𝗳𝗵𝗲 reader textfic by Angelic Missax, the maddest 𝗳𝗵𝗲 reader textfic K5K. This book is old and really cringe. 𝑦/NL/N is the beach of 1A. Despite her being a hopeless crackhead, everyone loves her because she thick. One day 𝑦/N sticky notes, Izuku Midoriya by Furikuki sticky notes, Izuku Midoriya K7K, what are you writing? Scroll. Pencil determined Izuku Midoriya tutors a timid L/NY/N as she writes down reasons as to why she likes him. Pencil many after-school meet. By Ray 165. K. In a world where quirks define heroism, 𝗧𝗵𝗲 Mizashima faces an uphill battle not just against villains, but against her own self-doubt. Born into a family with a legacy, heavy checkmark, Midoriya X female reader by Camilo Slice, heavy checkmark, I9K just a normal love story of how two strangers met then fell in love. Warning, 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 writing hand, I do not own any of the characters of My Hero Academia / Boku no Hero, X. By B1ing B0ing books, 9K5K- and quote, you want to save the world, while I want to watch it burn. We're on polarizing sides, set on taking the other down and quote. And quote, you're on the wrong side, me and you Izuku Midoriya by 𝗓𝗏 and you Izuku Midoriya 5K 𝗏 has always been looked at differently for who her father is. Even after her father died, she was still treated terribly. When she gets to UA, all of that changes. Hey. He talked louder than a whisper but quieter than his normal voice. You greeted him back. That's when he reached into his bag and grabbed the poster board out. Oh, before we start, I wrote down some more ideas on how we could organize it. If you want to use one of my ideas, circle it so I can remember. You said, handing him a pencil, and he nodded. He took the paper so he could have a better look at it. Once he observed your ideas, he hummed as he circled one. You looked at him and smiled. I actually really like this way because I was going to suggest this as well, so let's do this. He softly said as you nodded. You made eye contact with him for about 10 seconds before you let out a small gasp like sigh and broke it. Great. I'll do this part of it. You pointed at a corner like part of the paper. You watched as he nodded, chewing the end of his own pencil very lightly. And you can do whatever part you find the easiest. Then we will both do whatever part's left. Sound fair? You gave him a smile. And he returned it back. So now the two of you sat in silence as you wrote things on the poster board. Izuku decided to start writing on his side of the poster. Your idea was to write in pencil and then go over it with either a marker, pen, or Sharpie. As you wrote things, you sometimes would quietly say words out loud. I guess it was just a habit you had. You noticed Izuku had habits too. He would most of the time doodle on a small corner of his regular work. And he would always slightly chew on the end of his pencil. He would also sometimes twirl the end of green-haired curls when he's observing his work. You thought it was quite cute. You noticed you were observing him for a while, but you had already written down a bunch of things and you were going to go over them with a thin Sharpie you had. That's when you noticed Izuku furrow his eyebrows as he looked at one of your ideas. This man then erased it with his pencil eraser. My eyes widen as I open my mouth to speak. Wait, whoa, why are you erasing that? I spoke up. He looked at you for a second before speaking. What? I think that wouldn't fit, Like it's not a good idea to put that in. He leaned back in his chair unconsciously. You looked down at what he erased, trying to see his point. You sighed. Well, I think it's essential for this project. It has a lot of points that needed to be discussed. You tried to argue with his opinion, but it looked like he still wanted it gone. I still don't think so. Maybe if you wrote it simpler then it might work, but it's better if it's just gone. He then cracked his fingers. You mentally scoffed. I really want to keep it there, I feel like it will get us far. You reasoned. And he bit his lip. It's just one fact. We wrote so many others, I don't think it will matter. He placed his hands on the table. You tried your best not to get annoyed at him, but you were close to raising your voice just a bit. You had to be respectful of the other students in here. You took a deep breath in and Izuku looked like he noticed it too. He could tell you were getting annoyed and he didn't want you to. He stayed silent. You know what? Fine, I don't care. Do whatever you want. It's not like it will get us a good grade anyway. You said as you leaned back in your chair with your arms crossed. He furrowed his eyebrows. Well, if you want to put it in, we can. He said, trying to get you happy again. You groaned. No, like I said, I don't care anymore. You replied. But you do care, 𝐸/N. I'm sorry for getting you upset. Could you at least try to persuade me again? I'll try to understand, okay? He spoke softly. Knowing Izuku, he was probably gonna agree with whatever you said now because he doesn't want you angry at him. You can't blame him for that since you would probably do the same. You put your head on the table in front of you and stayed there for about a minute or two. Izuku didn't try to talk to you since he probably thought you needed a little break. He was probably actually sorry about getting you a little upset, since he didn't intend that at all. After what felt like a while, you lifted your head. Your 𝐸/C pools met his green ones. He was biting his lip as he stared at you. Okay. You finally said. You spent the next 5 minutes trying to persuade Izuku as to why you should keep that one fact and how it would benefit for the both of you in the long run. As promised, he tried to understand you, and he nodded his head after you would finish with one point and move to the next. He was a really good listener. Once you finished, you watched as his face changed from a neutral like one to a small smile. Thanks, 𝐸/N. I can see why you'd want to keep that on the project. You're right. It probably would benefit us for our grade. He said as you nodded. Yeah, I'm really sorry I made a huge deal about it. I didn't need to explain that much. You responded as you twirled your fingers. He laughed and reassured you that it was no problem. So, do you think I can start outlining? You asked him as you looked over at his side of the thick poster. It looked like it was almost completed. Oh, of course. I'm almost done with my side anyway, so I think we will only have decorating left and then it will be done, he said in an exciting tone. You smiled at him. You took out your black thin Sharpie and opened the cap. You started outlining your ideas, the thin ink oozing onto the paper. You would have to let it dry before touching it or it would smear. You watched carefully as you traced, making sure you wouldn't mess up. Once you finished a sentence, you would sometimes look at Izuku from the corner of your eye. You didn't know why. Maybe it was to see how he was doing. It was probably that. Once you finished, you put the cap on the thin marker and set it down. You looked over at Izuku and it looked like he was done. He looked at you and smiled. Can I borrow that? He asked you and you nodded. His arm reached over you and suddenly you felt small. But you didn't hate it. His arm basically reached in front of your face and you caught a whiff of his scent. He smelled like wood, but not the burning kind. It was the kind that they would make into a scented candle. You could also smell into of cologne on him. When he reached back and started tracing his words, you couldn't help but feel the heat slowly rising to your face. You had no idea why you were so embarrassed about this. All you knew was that his scent was comforting. You wanted to invent a candle that smelled just like him and have it sit in your room, though you would never admit that to anyone. Ever. Your eyes slowly wandered over to what he was doing. You watched as he went over gray lines from the pencil lines. Watching him finish was satisfying. It meant all you guys had left to do was decorate the poster board, because appreciate they will take points off if you don't decorate it. You smiled as you grabbed your phone. You heard Izuku crack his knuckles again. All right, and we're done, he said happily. You chuckled at him. Yep, you're right, you replied. He sighed. I'm so tired, he said to you as he looked at your eyes. This guy really liked eye contact. As you looked at his eyes, all you could think about was his arm going in front of you, his scent still pondering the air. Once again you felt the heat rise to your face and you looked away. Izuku let out a breath. Do you think we should wrap this up? He asked you quietly. This caused you to snap out of your trance. Yeah, sure, you said, standing up. You grabbed all of your stuff and so did Izuku. You looked back at the green-haired boy once you gathered all of your things. You saw that he was ready and you started heading towards the dorms. You two were walking together, just making some small talk until you reached the dorms. That's when you said your goodbyes and parted your ways. Today was interesting.